This is Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily with Andrew Hustler Paterson and Michael Remis.
Hey, what's up, everyone? Happy Friday, and welcome to a game day edition of Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Huss and Reem with you. Packed show today over the next couple hours, getting you ready for the finale to the homestand for the Winnipeg Jets, and looking ahead to the road trip, which looks like it will proceed without Gabriel Vilardi. Huge news coming out of Rick Bonus's post-morning skate media availability today. Gabriel Vilardi out indefinitely with an enlarged spleen. And I'm pretty sure the number one search term on Google for the last hour or so amongst Winnipeg Jet fans has been enlarged spleen. Looking into a little bit more, no laughing matter for Gabriel Vilardi, and obviously no clarity as to how long he will be out or when he might be able to come back in. But the Jets are going to need to move on without him for the time being and solidify that playoff spot. And first things first, look and try and win a hockey game tonight and bounce back from a very disappointing Wednesday night against the Nashville Predators. We're going to be all over that. Brandon Rewucki's coming on. Scott Billeck of the Winnipeg Sun. We'll also check in with their friends at Sport Manitoba for It Takes a Community to Play. And we haven't spent a lot of time talking about the crazy week in the National Football League with all of the moves around free agency. We will do that before the marble race with the one and only Lee Hacksaw Hamilton. So buckle up, going to be a good one. We'll head to the Jet room shortly after we bring in Michael Remis. But hey, it's Friday, so raise a glass to the weekend. Today's WST sponsored by our friends at Generic Lager. Your basic lager, just better. Little brown jug made the taste you crave with the name that says it all with this impressively standard lager. Whether you're at a Jets game tonight or watching from home, grab a cold one and cheers. You can grab a Little Brown Jug in the Exchange District at 336 William Avenue at your local LC vendor. And, of course, now available at all your favorite local sporting events. Also want to thank the other sponsors that make this show happen every day. Princess Auto, Coolbet Canada, Consolidated Supply, Manitoba Battery, Modern Man Barbershop, Canadian Club, the Winnipeg Jets, Wallace & Wallace, F Apparel, Aikens Lake Wilderness Lodge, Royal Sports, Boston Pizza, and we will get to a Why Not question of the day coming up for our friends at Not Autocorp at Waverly and McGillivray. Let's get Remis in here and kick things off. What's up, Reem? How are you?
Yeah, I'm feeling great here on a Friday. Weather's picking up. We got a big game tonight. Jets, Ducks, Jets. You know, with all this talk about how, they've won and lost and won and lost. Well, if they win tonight, they're in a three-way tie for first in the Central Division. I think that's pretty cool. And, they got games in hand on the teams they're competing against. Dallas, who lost last night to New Jersey.
He got waxed at home by Jersey.
And Colorado, they've got a 5-game win streak. And, Dallas, so Dallas and Colorado, that's the three-way race here for the Central. And Jets looking to move into a tie by points. However, they are still leading on points percentage. So looking forward to tonight's game.
And listen, you mentioned Colorado. They have been on an absolute heater coming out of the deadline. They had that massive win in Vancouver earlier this week where they were down 3-0, came back, battled back, won 4-3 in overtime. And the Dallas Stars, sort of like the Jets, have looked really good on some nights and not so good on others. And last night's game was a bit of a stunner. We stayed away from that one in the lock shop, but I mean, I don't know, maybe like most Jet fans, I mean, you look at that game, look at the season that New Jersey's had, knowing what Dallas is capable of, and you just automatically mark a win up for Dallas and assume that the Jets would be 4 points back of the Stars tonight. That is not the case. They lost in convincing fashion at home. And just before we get to the Jets, Remo, you said a couple things to me earlier this morning about Dallas. We were giving the Leafs a hard time earlier this year about their inability to win in regulation at home. This is from our pal Andy McNeil, the digital gambler. This is a stunning statistic that Dallas only has 10 home regulation wins this season. 13 out of 32 games have gone to overtime. And from a betting standpoint, if you bet one unit on the Stars to win in reg at home, you'd be down over 12 units. Only Toronto has been a worse regulation bet. But the other thing, and this I think will probably come as a surprise to Jet fans, because Jake Ottinger has been very good in his 2 wins against the Jets this year, and they did also lose one game to Scott Wedgwood. But only Vitek Vanacek has a worse high danger save percentage at 5-on-5 this year amongst goaltenders with 1,000 or more minutes. So while Dallas is certainly taking care of Winnipeg and played very well and are 3-0 against the Jets, there has been some kinks in their armor showing elsewhere. And, if it comes down to it, that the Jets are playing Dallas in that first round, because Colorado is certainly the hottest team right now, and I'd maybe give a slight nod or slight advantage to finishing in first. Dallas has not been as complete as maybe we've seen them in the 3 head-to-head games so far this year.
Yeah, I was surprised to see some of those numbers. We're seeing the Jets having trouble with Dallas, but to hear that Dallas, is having trouble, only 10 home regulation wins this season, and a lot of their games going to overtime, and the struggle at Jake Ottinger's had high danger chances 5-on-5. Certainly a surprise, and I think it's easy to want to hit the panic button after losing to Dallas a couple games and a couple games as of late. But on the season as a whole, the Jets having an exceptional year, and they're just as good as those other teams. And I thought Ken put it nicely when he said, "Ken, what was the question to Ken at the end of the show, his appearance? Ken, why can the Jets give me some reasons why the Jets should feel confident against Dallas and Colorado?" And he laid it out pretty nicely. And Anaheim's here tonight. They had a tough one. They're on a 4-game losing streak. Has outscored 21-5. They lost 2-0 to Minnesota yesterday. Shutout. Only 16 saves there for Marc-Andre Fleury. So nice opponent here for the Jets, and looking to get back in the win column.
Yeah, this should hopefully be a get-right game for the Jets. And listen, to their credit, they had that stink bomb on Saturday in Vancouver. They followed it up with a great game for a full 60 in a shutout win over Washington on Monday. And then just their execution was so off. And again, we spent enough time yesterday talking about the Nashville game. Another opportunity for the Jets to get back and kind of reestablish themselves as the team that we saw for the majority of the first half of the season. And we've seen in spurts, but not consistently enough, certainly for the coach or the fans' liking, as of late. And we'll get to all of that. But listen, the big news though today and I mentioned this right in the opening, is this update on Gabriel Vilardi, Remo. And I don't know about you, I immediately went to Google and headed over to the Mayo Clinic and started reading information on what an enlarged spleen is, how it affects people, and how long this condition can persist. And I didn't get a lot of clarity out of it, other than this is something that can be very serious. And needless to say, this is not what Gabriel Vilardi was hoping to hear about. And I guess we'll hear the clip from Bones in just a second. But there's the potential that he could be out a significant period of time. I believe it's referred to as indefinitely right now, as we currently sit here going into tonight's game.
Yeah, they said he's not going to be on the road trip and out indefinitely. So, hopefully in time for the playoffs, but I think there's no timetable. You don't really know how it's going to be. And this is not why he hasn't been skating. They found this enlarged spleen while looking at another issue that has held him out of the lineup. And yes, I, like everyone, texted one of my friends who's a doctor, and he basically said this, how does this happen? Or that could be a wide-ranging group of reasons. It's hard to pin it down on one. So you just hope that for Gabe, it heals quickly and he's able to come back to the lineup and doesn't suffer any long-term complications from this, and he's able to make a healthy return. But that was, I think it could be a scary situation depending on the cause.
Well, and listen, I mean, first and foremost, you want the young man to get back to full health. Selfishly, for everyone that's tied in with the Jets, you also want him out on the ice. And I mean, there is nothing that suggests that this is something that, oh, you just give it a week and he's back on it. I mean, the causes of this, of the enlarged spleen, and again, this is all from Mayo Clinic. The enlargement might be temporary, depending on treatment, but contributing factors include viral infections. We know there's been lots of those going around, bacterial infections, parasitic infections, cirrhosis or other diseases affecting the liver, and other things that are hemolytic anemia, a condition characterized by early destruction of red blood cells, and some other things is there. So listen, positive vibes to Gabe Vilardi to get that spleen reduced in size, get him back to full health, and get him back out there helping the Winnipeg Jets. We'll let you know the way this lineup is going to look like, a number of kind of changes. I think Rick Bowness kind of taking an opportunity against a Ducks team that has been struggling to get a few guys back into the lineup. But just right off the bat, because we're talking about it, Remo, why don't you play number 3? This is Rick Bowness with the update on Gabriel Vilardi, with the news on this spleen, as he told us earlier today.
Gabe will not be making the road trip. By further testing, he has an enlarged spleen. So at this point, there is no timetable. We have to take care of that, obviously, but he will not be traveling with the team.
When did that flare up? Like, was that
just
like
the
in
last
the Dallas
couple
game?
of days. Well, it's a little bit of everything built up to that assessment.
Okay, thank you.
And maybe you don't have the answer to this, but what's the treatment on that? Is that just something like you wait and hope it recovers on its own?
No, they're treating it as best they can. I don't have the medical answer for it.
Yeah.
No, I don't. But it is being treated, it is being looked at. He's in good hands here.
Yeah. Would there be concern? I mean, it's already been, I think this will be game 8 tonight, but that this could go on for quite a while longer still?
Time will tell.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. I mean, there's only so much Bones can say about something like that. That being said, he did mention he is in very good hands with the medical staff here with the Winnipeg Jets, and fingers crossed we'll see him back in the lineup. So no Vilardi for tonight's game, and some other kind of interesting moves by the coach. Rasmus Kapari will stay out. David Gustafsson is coming back in tonight. Cole Perfetti will be out. So the lineup up front is looking like this: Connor Scheifele, Iafallo, Ehlers, Monahan, Toffoli, Lowry with Nino and Appleton, and the fourth line will be Gus with Nemetsnikov and Barron. The blue line, significant shakeup though. Morrissey with DeMello, Dylan with Pionk, and both Dylan Sandberg and Colin Miller get the night off. Logan Stanley and Nate Schmidt will come back in to get a game. And as we knew as of yesterday, kind of maybe a little unusually giving us a little bit of a tidbit beforehand, we knew LB would be the starting goaltender and will lead the Jets out tonight to take on the Ducks.
Yeah, we talked about this yesterday. I was surprised he said the goalie. Usually it's like, I'm not telling you my plan. How dare you ask me who my starting goalie is going to be? But he revealed it was Brossoit, and he's been excellent this year. No concerns with him. I was surprised to see Sandberg and Miller out. Sandberg for sure. I mean, he's been in just about every...
I think that's Sandberg's first healthy scratch or sit out all night. Although, I don't think this is... Well, we'll hear from what Bones has to say, but I mean, I think Miller's been fine. Sandberg's good. There's a ton of hockey coming up, and I think they feel that it is important to have all these guys getting into a game. So usually it's just one guy coming in and out. Tonight, both. And Stanley and Schmidt, who said before had been battling for that 6th spot, will both get a chance to play. And maybe this is sort of a real battle at the bottom of the depth chart for who's the next guy in between Stanley and Schmidt, although I certainly think based on the seasons they both had, Schmidt should be that guy.
Yeah, John Liu put out these lines. Bowness didn't... I don't think he addressed that in his comments, at least not the ones available on the Jets website. Maybe Scott Billeck will have some more info. I did text Billeck, and he said, I think he said it was, you're playing the Ducks. It's a bit of load management here with the schedule. That's what my interpretation. We'll hear if Scott expands. But the news with Vilardi out, okay, who's the new top line? And Connor and Scheifele, they're still together with Alex Iafallo, who's played well. And they broke up the new guy line and Nikolai Ehlers. I'm looking forward to seeing how this goes with Sean Monahan and Tyler Toffoli. This is kind of what we thought they were going to do if Vilardi would be on the top line with Connor and Scheifele. And Toffoli, he's looking for his first point in a Jet uniform, and big opportunity tonight, us against the Ducks, who aren't very good. And yeah, that third line, they're lock button together. Nino, Lowry, Appleton, and Gus. He's back in centering Barron and Nemestikov. So
Iafallo's had goals in a couple recent goals. He got to 10 finishing up. Now it's only Vlad, the only Jet forward this season that doesn't have 10 goals as of yet. He's got 8. But of course, Toffoli comes into the mix, and he's well over 10 from his time earlier this season with the Montreal Canadiens. And Iafallo did have some success early on in the season when Gabriel Vilardi went out. It wasn't necessarily long-term success, and then they kind of switched things around. But they certainly are looking at the Toffoli, Monahan, Ehlers line to try to get some chemistry together and kind of go with that 1-2 punch up front. But let's hear a little bit more from Bones. He talked about the Ducks coming in. You mentioned they have not been good all season long and are in a real funk right now, being shut out last night by the Wild.
Yeah, no, Minnesota's fighting for a playoff spot, and Anaheim gave them everything they could handle last night. It's a very determined group. It's a hard-working group. They've got enough skill to do some damage if you let them, so they're getting great goaltending. So it's going to be a very tough game because there's no quit in that group, and you give them a lot of credit from where they are in the standings. But I know a couple of guys on that team with Killer and Goody, and they're great competitors, and that's going to rub off on everybody else in that room.
Yeah, there's Bones referring to, of course, Radko Gudas, the executioner on the back end, and the killer, I believe, is Alex Killorn, who's on that top line with Mason McTavish and Leeson. Continuing with some comments from the Jets. I mean, you mentioned the Ducks. What's Bone wanting to see from the Jets after a Wednesday night that was not up to their standard?
Well, we'd like to get off to a great start and put a couple of pucks in the net early. So that would be big help. Again, when you're playing a team that has nothing to lose, like they have, and the longer they hang into a game, the more hope they have to win the game. So it would be nice for us to get off to a good start. But listen, it doesn't matter. They're in the National Hockey League. They're all good players, and they all have a lot of pride. So the best thing for us, to answer your question, would be to try to get an early lead.
All right, so there's Rick Bonus, and I think everyone will go to the game tonight. The last Friday night game of the regular season, if you're thinking about jumping on a last-minute ticket for the game. The atmosphere is always a little bit better, a little more wet in the stands, if you know what I'm saying, on those Friday night games. And getting the crowd into it with some early goals certainly would be nice, and especially for a team that did not start very well and didn't score till the late part of the third period on Wednesday night. The good news, speaking of scoring, is that 55 is back. Mark Scheifele will be in the middle of Connor and Iafallo on that top line. And Bones talked about his top line with Mark Scheifele back in the lineup tonight.
We're going to start Alex over there. They've had some success in the past, and I want to see what, again, we're just getting Tyler. I want to see what Nick looks with those two, with Monahan and Tyler. Give it a lot of speed up there, and if that doesn't work, we move it back. They've both been told if that doesn't work, we move Nick right back to the right side. We have last change here at home, so that helps.
I am, and I think we sort of talked about this heading into the game on Wednesday, Reem, after Toffoli's debut. If you're watching Toffoli against Washington, the one thing he's just got a knack of doing, in addition to being a pain in the ass in front of the net, is at 5-on-5, finding those soft areas, finding space to be able to take the puck and have the time to be able to shoot it. And there's no one that creates more space than Nikolai Ehlers. So in theory, I think there's certainly an argument to be made that there could be a great connection from those two, and we'd like to see them, get some time to do it together. And hopefully the Scheifele, Connor, Iafallo line can, maybe get some of the production they had early on in the absence of Gabriel Vilardi when Iafallo was up with that line. But here's just one more. This is a follow-up from the media about Vilardi, and then we'll hear a little bit more on Scheifele as well as hear from Scheifele. But here's some follow-up on the Vilardi situation from this morning.
Follow-up regarding Gabriel's status, Rick. Originally was an upper body injury. So was that actually the spleen issue then?
Was it what?
The spleen issue? That was the
No,
upper
not
body
at
injury?
that point, no.
So there was
All
an upper
part
body
of it,
injury as well, but this is something separate.
Additional,
Okay, all right, thank you.
How much do you feel for the guy?
Yeah, I know. He's a great kid, and he's overcome a few injuries over his early career, so you hope that when this is behind him, he gets a chance to get healthy and play consistently. So we certainly miss him. He was a big part of the trade last year, and we saw the importance of him on our power play and on that top line when he was able to be given a few games to get his game going. So, yeah, you feel for him.
Yeah, when he plays, he fits in so well, it seems. Can you tell how frustrated he is?
Yeah. Oh, he is, yeah. He's disappointed.
Do you know what causes an enlarged spleen?
No.
We've got those answers for you, Paul. We've been reading up at the Mayo Clinic website on Google, available to anybody with the World Wide Web. 55's back tonight, though. Here's Bones officially announcing him good to go.
He was able to eat and keep everything down yesterday, and I talked to him last night, and I talked to him again this morning. Obviously, he's on the ice. He feels good.
Yeah, and Scheifele's been far from the only one within the Winnipeg Jet team. And I would suggest the Winnipeg Jet fan base that has been sick and having difficulty holding things down. I mean, it seems like this flu that's been hitting everyone has, a period of time where it's like you're violently ill. And then just how quickly you kind of can get over that and return back to it has been different from person to person. But the birthday boy is back tonight, and that's big for the Winnipeg Jets. It was quite obvious how much they missed him on Wednesday night, Reem.
Yeah, it's been tough go for them with him out of the lineup, and really glad to see he could keep food down. He gets into detail in this upcoming clip, Huss, about how quickly he had to leave the ice during the morning skate. I know we all want to hear those details. So
you especially.
I'm dying to know. When they say keep down, I mean, well, and you know what? I'm not going to go anymore. But hey, we know he means a lot to the Jets. It is his birthday. They're playing the Ducks. I don't know. Maybe you want to put a little sprinkle on 55 to score. And him with Connor and Iafallo. Looking forward to seeing that against the Ducks tonight.
No doubt about it. Well, here is Mark Scheifele himself back in the lineup tonight, celebrating a birthday this evening. And he was asked just how he's feeling after missing the game on Wednesday.
Yeah, there's no worse feeling, that's for sure. So, thought it was all past us, but I guess it wasn't. But just happy to be feeling better.
When you showed up at the rink the other day ahead of the Nashville game, was it kind of in your mind then that you weren't going to be able to go, or were you still hopeful at that time?
No, it hit me halfway through morning skate. I was like, oh, something's not right, and I had to pretty much race off the ice to call the dinosaurs. So, yeah, it wasn't fun.
In your years with the team, have you seen a flu bug not only this severe, but also for this duration? I mean, it seems like this has been going on forever.
I think it's kind of been going around everywhere, I think I've heard of other teams going through it too, so it's just one of those things, it just makes you stronger, your immune system, battles it, and you only get stronger from it.
Would it be safe to say you're 100% tonight, or would you be something a little below that but still can play?
Oh yeah, I feel 100% now.
All right, so there it is. Now, Remus, I'm going to be honest.
Yeah.
I am well versed in plenty of slang. I am not familiar with the term "call the dinosaur," and I see a lot of people in chat call the dinosaur.
Okay.
Over and over again. Do we know what that means?
Yeah, I do. I didn't know. What it meant when
Dictionary?
he said. I just checked it out. Urban Dictionary. I guess we're officially old where we need to check out Urban Dictionary. So here's the entry. In case you want to know which end it was coming out of from Mark Scheifele when they say couldn't, in reference to not being able to keep food down, calling dinosaurs. College slang term that refers to the act of vomiting. a play on the sound that one emits during regurgitation. Do you want the example? Yes.
Sure. Yes. Please.
Yes.
Can you use it in a sentence, please?
Yeah.
It's like a spelling bee.
Yeah. Freddie drank a fifth of tequila and spent the rest of the night calling dinosaurs from the bathroom. Now, I don't think this was alcohol related, obviously, but in terms of
early birthday party on Tuesday night heading into the game.
In terms of understanding the term, had to call the dinosaur. My son's a big dinosaur lover. I thought I would know this term, but I don't.
You can maybe use that with him next time he's sick. Evan, are you calling the dinosaurs? What do you mean?
Oh, man, that'd be he loves dinosaurs. Yeah, and kids do get sick, and you can make them feel better by using that term when they're, hey, it sounded like you were calling the Stegosaurus over there. You're so right. Thank you.
One more clip from Scheif. Brandon Rewucki's coming up in just a couple minutes. Scheif was asked just about unfinished business.
Oh, yeah. Unfinished business specifically with Ryan Strome because he took out Kyle Connor, remember?
Of course.
Fully deserves
we do remember that.
Fully deserves a slash in the face.
Yes, the Ryan Hartman treatment.
Yeah.
I think we played him since.
But he didn't play.
Oh, yeah, he was hurt. Not that I'm aware of. You play every guy hard. Obviously, we didn't like it, but that's a long time ago. We have Casey back and he's healthy, and you just play every guy hard the same way.
All right, so to be honest, I wouldn't expect much of anything when it comes to that, and Mark Scheifele, I think, was pretty clear on that. Had to almost be reminded of it, but Strome didn't play in that last game. Moving forward, looking for 2 points and looking for a good 60-minute effort from the club. In the absence of Gabriel Vilardi, which is going to be the case for the foreseeable future. We will talk about that and much more coming up in just a second with Brandon Rewucki. Well, spring is just about here, gang, and our friends at Consolidated Supply are ready for a very busy spring and summer and the change of the seasons. You know, the gang at Consolidated Supply are the leaders in irrigation systems, artificial turf, and of course, golf carts in Manitoba is the official club car dealer with incredible new and used options for you in regards to golf carts. They've also got other amazing options for your property, including hot tubs and incredible outdoor kitchens. And of course, they're also the leaders in small engine parts and repair. Consolidated Supply has so much waiting for you. Come on down and see them at their beautiful showroom, open to the public at 1395 Niagara Road East, or find out everything Consolidated Supply can do for you online at cte.ca. Our friends at Manitoba Battery are enjoying the beauty of their new location over on Dovercourt Road. It is officially open, and Donnie and his staff welcome you down at the original location at 1026 Logan, but at the new spot at 452 Dovercourt Drive. And as part of the grand opening celebrations, any battery that's normally $60 or more will save you an extra $10 if you pick it up in store. But of course, you know Manitoba Battery is your local option with the best prices on batteries of all makes, models, shapes, sizes, whatever you need, beating the pants off the big box stores. And of course, they will deliver to you for free any battery purchase inside the perimeter of Winnipeg over $60. It's just that easy. So head on over to manitobabattery.com or pop by and visit the fellas at the new location, 452 Dovercourt Drive, and of course the original spot at 1026 Logan Avenue. Guys, if you need to get a fresh new look as we head into spring, you know where to do that. Get on over to one of the 8 Modern Man barbershops conveniently located throughout the city of Winnipeg, including their 2 newest standalone locations on Pembina Highway or on Plessis Road. Modern Man barbershops offer a variety of grooming services, including haircuts, beard shaping, shaves, color services, and more. The easiest way to make an appointment and book your look is at modernmanbarber.com. And make sure to give them a follow on Instagram as well at Modern Man Barbershops. And we'd also have a huge thank you to the great people at Canadian Club for their continued support of Winnipeg Sports Talk. And of course, the Winnipeg Blue Bombers is the official spirit of the blue and gold. We'll be counting down the days till we're enjoying CC's at the Rum Hut and the Jim Beam Social House, and CC's and Gingers at the stands at Princess Auto Stadium. But while we wait for football to return, you'll always get the great taste of Canadian Club and all their amazing products at your local Manitoba liquor marts. Pop by today and check out the Canadian Club display. And remember, always enjoy responsibly. All right, let's look ahead to tonight's game in the road trip with Brandon Rewucki, host of Skates and Plates. Rew, what's going on? How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. Happy to be back. How are things going?
Well, I have actually over the week been calling the dinosaur, and I just found out what that meant. I have been under the weather. I've been trying to power through. Scheif will be powering through, but yes, we just had a bit of a revelation on the show today where we heard this term from Mark Scheifele, who was obviously out for sickness reasons, and we have found that out. Were you aware of that term before we just let you know about that, or is that old hat for you?
No, that comes from somebody who's seen like 80% of the Land Before Time movies. That's a new one for me, but I can say now that the Flyers are currently in the process of calling the dinosaur all over themselves, trying to get the playoff spot. So I'll piggyback on that one.
Well, you know what? We can actually get to some of the stuff around the league. There's no one calling more dinosaurs than the Red Wings right now after their loss to the Coyotes last night. But first things first, I mean, listen, we're all focused on this game tonight, and is Vilardi going to be able to play this game? I mean, that enlarged spleen news today, very concerning, like from a personal level for the individual, first and foremost, and a guy that has had more than his fair share of bad luck. Not to mention what a long-term absence of Vilardi would mean for a team that just loaded up with Tyler Toffoli, even more thankfully in time, knowing that this could be a considerable amount of time without 13 in the lineup.
Yeah, I don't know how much the team knew before that trade, but it sure as hell felt and feels mandatory right now, doesn't it? I mean, even with Toffoli in the picture right now, with all due respect, you're left with Alex Iafallo up there on your top line, and that's not going to be good enough come playoff time. So it's a massive hole. It's one of those weird injuries too, or issues that I don't know how long it's going to take. I doubt the Jets and Vilardi know how long it's going to take, but it's just been a crappy year for the kid luck-wise, hasn't it been? Like he gets going early in that first game, knee and he's out. Gets going again, another injury and he's out. Starting to pick it up, and now he's dealing with this issue. So, hopefully this is the last of it. They come in threes, and he can, be ready to go in full speed come playoff time. It's one of those ones where the Jets, I feel like, are going to weather the storm okay over the course of the next 15, 16 games. But, yeah, come game one, whoever it's going to be up against, you're going to need number 13 in the lineup if this team wants to make this a run into May and potentially even June.
You know what? It is interesting. And again, fingers crossed that Vilardi's back. And you know what? Better finding this out with 18 or whatever games left in the regular season than having this happen going into the playoffs. At least I think there is a reasonable amount of time that treatment and whatever can happen, and hopefully he can be ready to go. But there was a lot of talk that after the addition of Tyler Toffoli and kind of looking at the way the Jet roster is and the players available from the Moose, that maybe Rutger McGroarty's return would be kind of more for next season. He might get into a game, but maybe not being in the playoffs. I'll be honest, there's been a couple times recently, well, frankly, Saturday night against Vancouver and Wednesday night, where during those games where the Jets weren't themselves, you were wondering about a guy that could come in and really give a big spark of energy and enthusiasm to a team. And I will say this, if this is one of these injuries that could be lingering over the course of the remainder of the regular season, the one other side of it is that if McGroarty does sign as soon as this Michigan season is over, it may open up a little bit more of a spot to give the Winnipeg Jets a chance to see him maybe in a few different spots in the lineup and what he could do to help bring everything that has excited Winnipeg Jet fans while he's been a prospect to fruition in a Jet lineup.
Yeah, I definitely wouldn't shy away from the possibility of him playing significant minutes for the Jets come playoff time or, whenever the season ends for him. Don't forget, Matty Nyes for Toronto last year kind of parachuted in. And I don't think he started right away on that top line, but it was only a handful of games before, the Leafs brass kind of looked at each other and said, I mean, what are we waiting for here? Let's get him up there. And he was a pretty impactful piece for them in the playoffs. So there's precedence that this can happen here. It's tough to say without having seen him play at the NHL level, though. But I mean, the reason why I think there's a little more possibility to McGroarty coming in and filling that role is, whether you agree or disagree with it, Bones has shown that he really likes having a bigger, more quote-unquote physical style of complementary winger besides Connor and Scheifele. Vilardi obviously fits that role. I think that's the reason Iafallo is there right now, as opposed to maybe Vladdy or Cole Perfetti. And that's McGroarty's style to a T, right? So as far as stylistically, he kind of fits with what the Jets want to throw out there. And I think it's possible. I think it's possible he could come in and be a bit of an impactful piece for the Jets there. It's just you can't really confirm it until we see him out there on the ice full time. But at the very least, I mean, this is kind of entering, if Vilardi's going to be out, extended time here, this is kind of, break glass in case of emergency time. So you've got to throw every single one of your options out there on the table.
Yeah, and listen, I mean, I think that if he comes in and gets into a game, it starts probably in the fourth line, and you get a chance to feel out the NHL play. But, I mean, anyone that's been paying attention to what he's been doing with Michigan over the past month, I mean, really, since he came back from the World Juniors, he's been right up there with the best players in all of college hockey. And I mean, you look at where he's scoring goals from. I mean, he's one-timing them on the power play. He's always in and around the net. He really does bring a lot of the things that guys that find ways to succeed in the National Hockey League, he's going to bring that to the table. And I would suggest that almost anything is a possibility, considering, the way Bones has been really trying to get two lines going up front. And listen, I think there's also the possibility that there'd be a great fit with Adam Lowry at some point. Although with the success that line's had, the production of all three of those players, including Mason Appleton, they haven't needed to, and they haven't even thought about moving that line around. I'd often thought that maybe Iafallo was the perfect fit there. But again, the body of work speaks for themselves. Big picture, though, coming into these next two games, I mean, in the race that the Jets are in, these are games you got to have. Home against the Ducks, on the road against the Columbus Blue Jackets, a place that hasn't always been kind, frankly, to the Jets when playing on the road. But I mean, your thoughts about, these next couple of games, considering how up and down the team's been over the past 2 weeks.
Yeah, it's a weird different kind of must-win game, right? Because to me, like, you look at the schedule and Colorado is charging up fast, and the Jets have to catch ground on the Dallas Stars as well. Like, these are 4 points that are mandatory because you're going up against some pretty stiff competition in the not-so-distant future. So to bank 4 out of 4, it feels like a must-do for the team. What's interesting about that, though, Huss, is I also feel like at the same time, knowing full well how important these points in these games are, I think this is the ideal, perfect situation to get LB a couple of starts here as well, and the opportunity to give Connor Hellebuyck basically, I think it's maybe not quite a full week, but 6 days off between games. I played Wednesday, and then the next game would be Tuesday against the Rangers, right? I
think they might go back to back with LB?
I think they should. I don't know if they. I doubt they will. The Jets, for whatever reason, seem to be the only team in the league hesitant to give their backup goalie back-to-back starts in multiple games in a row. But I mean, you're going up against some pretty solid playoff teams or teams on the bubble in the next little bit. You want Hellebuyck in the net for all of those. And I mean, what was the point of bringing LB in then, right? Like, it was to spell Connor Hellebuyck.
The thing is, I'm definitely with you on the number of starts. I probably wouldn't think that they would go back to back on them. I mean, if anything, we're looking at the schedule right here. Brossoit's playing tonight. I kind of think they go with Brossoit, with Hellebuyck the next two, and then maybe give Brossoit the game against New Jersey, and then one of the two games on the weekend would probably be Hellebuyck going against Sorokin, and then LB coming up against the Capitals, and then you've got Hellebuyck even more rested for two massive games at home against teams that will be in the playoffs in the Edmonton Oilers and Vegas Golden Knights, and then potentially a Brossoit start against the Senators on that 2 Saturdays from tomorrow.
Yeah, I mean, there's options for Brossoit to get into a handful of games here. I personally like the idea of giving Hellebuck almost a week off to rest. And I mean, look, with Brossoit's numbers this year, a 920 save percentage, I don't know. I'm not going to feel too upset about putting that guy in between the pipes and
against anyone.
Yeah, that's what I mean, right? Like, there's some backups where you're like, we got to throw him in against the bottom 5 and just pray that we get 2 points out of it. I don't put a little faith in your backup goalie, right? And, with the way New Jersey's playing as of late and how they've fallen out of it, although they had that big win against Dallas, that wouldn't be, to me, sure, play him against the Devils, but also give him these 2 on the weekend. And then Hellebuck's extremely rested and ready to go not only for the Edmonton-Vegas back-to-back, but just for the entire month of April, to be honest, because he might not be getting a whole lot of rest knowing that the division title is up for grabs, right? And so if you can give him a spot here or there, then let's go ahead and be aggressive and find a way to do that. And then at that point, even if Hellebuck started a bunch down the stretch, he's probably only going to get to 60 some odd games started. Like, it won't be the 65 that he's done where I think he's been overworked in the past, but you're keeping that number down to maybe a max of 60 games, which is probably the limit that you want to cap him at, knowing that he's going to be playing every second night come April and, again, hopefully May and June.
Well, and one other thing, and I think it was Reem that mentioned this or somebody earlier this week, that I guess for the Jennings Trophy, and again, the Jets right now have played 2 less games than the Florida Panthers. The Jets have allowed 157 goals. The Panthers have allowed 160. So they probably by goal percentage, again, if you do points percentage, they're probably trailing Florida a little bit, but that can change quickly with a strong night or a shutout or whatever, and they've had a couple of those recently. But I guess Brossoit needs 25 games to be on that trophy, to be part of that group. And right now, it's looking like it's probably in and around 23 or 24. I'm not going to say that they're going to make decisions based anything on that. However, with Laurent Brossoit and the way that he's played, and this goes back to the point where I think you should feel confident to be able to put him in against anybody. That wasn't the case last year, and the team was basically playing playoff games for the final month of the season, and that's why Hellebuck ran 13 straight, because they had to. This is a very different scenario, and I agree. These games are all important, and you would love to finish first and have home ice and play a wild card team in the first round, but that is no reason to maybe get away from the original plan to give Hellebuck some more rest over the course of this past month, because you've got an option that has been up to the task, start in and start out, basically since 2 weeks into the season.
I mean, Hellebuck's the Vezina frontrunner right now, and albeit the games are obviously, drastically different in terms of games played, he's matched them stat for stat. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I don't think there needs to be a whole lot of hesitation here. And I mean, it may not play out like this, but like you mentioned, the grand scheme of things, would you rather the Jets get the 1 seed, but Hellebuck has to play 14 straight down the stretch, or would you rather finish second and Hellebuck gets 57 games and Brossoit gets 25, right? And you finally, for the first time, arguably since 2018, you have arrested Hellebuck ready to go for the playoffs. So I know that there's a lot at stake here, but I still feel like you can kind of get the best of both worlds if you're the Jets. You can make sure Hellebuck's rested and ready to go and not overworked come playoff time, but you're rewarding Laurent Brossoit for the incredible backup season that he's having, and you're finding a way to get both goalies in, keep them both fresh. And I think this week in particular is kind of that perfect opportunity to do so. And if you gotta, if you gotta give Torres staring you in the mouth, Brossoit gets 2 against these lesser than teams, and then it gives you some options in terms of how you want to run your goalie tandem in the upcoming matchups against the Metro teams.
And just, Remis just had those numbers up. I mean, LB 211 goals against average, 11-4-2, a 924 save percentage. As you mentioned, Hellebuck, the odds-on favorite to win the Vezina, 233, which has gone up a little bit over the last kind of 2 weeks, but still with an incredibly solid 921 save percentage. So one thing we won't be worrying about is the goaltending position for the Winnipeg Jets. But on that whole topic, I was talking with Nielsen on the Lock Shop today, and Remis had thrown me these stats about Dallas that sort of blew me away. Dallas only has 10 home regulation wins this season. 13 of their 32 games have gone to extra time. Only the Leafs have been worse amongst, the teams that are in the playoffs. But Jake Ottinger has the worst high danger save percentage at 5-on-5 in the entire league outside of Vitek Vanacek for goaltenders that have played over 1,000 minutes. I'll be honest, and I think maybe this is just focusing on what's happened head to head. And I thought the Jets in the 2 games they lost at home played really well. They really lost on special teams in one of those games. They were both very close. The game in Dallas recently was pretty ugly, but I'd always thought that was maybe the worst matchup for the Jets. Now I'm sort of thinking that maybe we're putting too much into those 3 games head to head, because when you look at what Colorado is doing right now, and that's a team that I think should scare the hell out of any potential opponent in a 7-game series. I mean, let's just eliminate, if the team isn't going to be first place, is there a better matchup for the Jets in a 7-game series in the 2-3 matchup, Dallas or Colorado, in your mind?
I think for everything you listed there, it is the Stars. Because it just seems like everybody's leaning on, Ottinger will figure it out at some point, and then the Stars, away they go. Well, he might not. That's a very legible option that we could see play out. It happens all the time where star goalies, they just have off years. There's no great explanation for it, and he doesn't figure it out, and it sinks the Dallas Stars come playoff time. So I think for that reason alone, I lean towards Dallas. The other one for me as to why I'd be trying to avoid Colorado is just that I mean, look, Florida's a better team overall. I'm trying to think who else I might lean ahead of Colorado at this point. Maybe even Carolina is a more well-rounded team. There's no team on the planet that can match the supernova of having the McKinnon line and Makar on the point there. When they want to go, hey, our best 5 against your best 5, there's no one on the planet that can match up with what Colorado can do. And I know it didn't work for them against Seattle last year. It doesn't make them unbeatable. But if I'm choosing my options, if I'm trying to pick which poison I'd rather suffer through, I'll take my chances against a really, really good Stars team that's having trouble in net over the potential of McKinnon and Makar putting up 15 points in 6 games against you.
I said yesterday, and I don't know whether it was on this show or on Lock Shop, but we were talking about goaltending in the Central Division. And from a Jet perspective, the potential of teams you could play in and around that Nashville game. And I'm like, well, the Stars have Ottinger. And again, this was sort of before I dug in a little bit more and seeing how he's been this year. I'll certainly put UC Saros up individually against just about anybody. And then my comment was, well, the Avalanche have Georgiev. And I mean, I kind of say that might be their Achilles heel. Is that really the case? Like when you look and compare Colorado and Dallas, I mean, is there a big advantage to Dallas? Historically, yes. Right now, is that the case?
Yeah, right now, I don't think so. I mean, Georgiev's, he's fine. Like I don't know, what would you call him? Like an above average starter? Nothing more than that, though. Like, I don't think he's a top 10 goalie. You'd have to squint pretty hard to.
Oh, no, I don't think
in there. You know what I mean?
That.
So it's just tough because Ottinger, when he's playing like himself, is a top 5 goalie. Mm-hmm. He's been New Jersey Devils bad this season. It speaks to how good the Stars team is as a whole, that they can overcome that a lot of nights. But if that continues during the playoffs, it's going to sink them. It's going to sink them in round 1. I still get flashbacks towards that Avs team when they just ran roughshod over everybody a few years back. They're not as good. But I think with the additions they made at the deadline, they're not that far off. Like Walker fits what they do on the back end to an absolute T. Middleset is still a downgrade over what they had with Kadri, but I just think the holes and the weaknesses with the Avalanche right now, they're pretty minor compared to the Stars needing to figure out how in the world can we get Ottinger back, because if he's not ready to go, then we just don't have a chance against the best in the Central.
I'd make the argument that if you take out dudes named McDavid, they might have the best 2 players in the Western Conference in Makar and McDavid and McKinnon. And McKinnon. I've been making a point of watching more of the Avs lately. He is like, people just don't see enough of this team, and they're like, oh, Austin Matthews should be right back in the Hart Trophy, and McDavid's doing all what he's doing. Start to finish, Nathan McKinnon has been the best player in the NHL this year, and I'm not sure it's close.
Yeah, I mean, it would to me it would take a supernova McDavid month. And then McKinnon right now is at the top. I don't know. I think I like that. From start to finish, he's been the best player. I think that 2-3 week span where McDavid was injured and he came back and he wasn't clearly himself, that's probably going to cost him the Hart Trophy. But I mean, it's 1,000% deserved for McKinnon. I'm not going to argue saying McDavid's the best player on the planet, but yeah, Colorado's got number 2 and 3. And Mikko Rantanen might not be all that far behind them as well. I personally want to avoid Colorado. If it comes to it in round 2, or whenever it might be, like, let somebody else face them in round 1. Maybe they get an injury or 2, and then we can take them down after that. But I think the Avs, they needed to make moves at the deadline. They went ahead and did it. I think they're going to kind of start to catch their stride. I think it's going to be hard for the Jets to catch them for tops in the division. I do feel right now it's between Winnipeg and Colorado for first in the Central.
Well, and listen, that's why these next 2 games, mandatory 2 points if you want to stay in that. You got to make up those games against poor teams, the games in hand that you have, and put yourself in the position where you are in the lead, because they are going to have some real tough games, and they do have a head-to-head matchup late in the season that could be massive when it comes to first place. Although when it comes to first place, we've talked about what a big carrot that would be. And listen, there is something to be said for getting first and letting Dallas and Colorado beat the hell out of each other for 7 games in the first round. But man, when you look at the wild card spots right now, like Vegas lost again yesterday, and I fully expect Vegas to be there. But I mean, that would be a pretty intimidating defending champion Stanley Cup team that might be getting some help back come playoff time. And of course, the Predators right now are actually in the first wild card because they're 3 points clear of both the Kings and the Vegas Golden Knights. Speak to the Vegas situation, though. Minnesota is 4 points back and has 2 more head-to-head games against Vegas this year. Like, we've been waiting for this team to turn it around again. Like, if they didn't have that crazy start to the season, they'd be right there with Minnesota and St. Louis.
Yeah, and people forget they did the LTIR trick a few years back, and they didn't make it in, right? Like, it was the last couple games of the season, and they couldn't find a way to sneak in, so it's not mandatory. I do think they find a way to get in, and I think they do so pretty comfortably. It's funny because we talked about this on the last Skates and Plates, but I think if the Jets do get tops in the division, I think my number one team in terms of who I'd want to face is the LA Kings. Like, I think I'd rather face the Kings than the Predators. Never mind the godforsaken storylines that will come out of that one. But I don't know. Like, you look at what LA has, and up front they're deep, but nobody's really having an outstanding, like, blow you away type season. Their decor is kind of underwhelming on paper, and they've been a little bit underwhelming so far this season. And Talbot Rittich as your goaltending tandem, I don't know. I think, especially with how Nashville's playing, when they've got high-end talent in Saros, Yossi, and Forsberg that could potentially steal the series on their own, I'm kind of cheering for Vegas to get it turned around a little bit here to push LA down, and maybe that being the carrot the Jets to go after in round 1.
I am with you. I mean, like, I was legitimately bummed last night that Calgary came back with those 4 goals in the third period and won. Like, I don't even want them in the conversation of a wild card. And I would also love to see Vegas and Edmonton go at it in the first round as well. And I think we can give Vancouver, they're most likely going to win the division. And I'm sort of with you as well. I mean, the Kings have been so up and down. They certainly don't have anything close to the goaltending that Winnipeg has. And it would make it, I'll put this out to the chat right now. Why not question of the day for not Autocorp, but Waverly and McGillivray? What is the first round matchup that would scare you the most? Is it Dallas? Is it Colorado? Is it potentially Vegas in a wild card spot? Let us know in the chat right now. And certainly if you're watching the show afterwards, feel free to throw it in the comments. The other thing, just while we're talking quickly about the playoff picture outside of the Winnipeg Jets, the Detroit Red Wings have been calling the dinosaur. 7 straight now. They lost last night for the second of these 7 to Arizona at home last night. And all of a sudden, Brandon, you look at teams like even Washington that looked terrible on Monday and Wednesday. They got a big win last night in Seattle. They're all of a sudden 1 point out of a playoff spot. 1 point back in the New York Islanders, who have lost a couple after winning 6 in a row. Detroit going the wrong way. And I know the Flyers, I know you're just naturally nervous about Philly. They've still got 4 points clear, although they have played a couple extra games. Like, it really seemed a week or two ago that we knew what 8 teams were going to be in the East. That is completely up on its head right now. And I don't know if Detroit can steady the ship and get back into it. And I do wonder if a team like Washington or even Buffalo, although they do have a tough schedule going forward, can make up those 4 points and all of a sudden be playing games that are like playoff games in the month of April.
Yeah, well, I mean, Buffalo's doing the classic, oh, we're almost eliminated. Well, let's reel off a 9-1 stretch
Turn
here.
it on.
And then we'll pick 11th at the draft. So I think the Sabres are going to do that, get close, and then just fall apart down the stretch a little bit. Right now, everybody's leaking oil. So it's like the Flyers might make it, but it will be in no way, shape, or form from their own doing. It might just be that nobody behind them's doing a whole lot. I mean, right now, though, they're without 4 of their defensemen that were starting the year as starters for them. And so, yeah, it turns out that, trading your second or third best defenseman at the deadline, while great for the future, actually harms your team pretty significantly in the present. It's funny. I think Philly, I think Detroit, I think even Tampa to an extent are in trouble in terms of how they're playing, but nobody behind them is really making a whole ton of noise. The Islanders were, and now they've lost a couple in a row now, and I mean they're playing okay. If I had to bet right now, Huss, I don't know if the Flyers are going to make it. I think Detroit might be able to kind of steer the ship around. People are going to be selling on them right now. I might buy them while they're low here, and they'll do just enough to get into the dance. But you look at the teams outside the picture, and I mean Washington the other night looked like they were in 3-2-1 Cancun mode. I just don't think the teams that are below the line have a whole lot to give and the ability to make up 4 or 5 points in the span of, just over a dozen games.
There is one more head-to-head matchup between the Islanders and Philly on Monday, April 1st. And then right after that, the Islanders get Chicago, they get Columbus, they've got Montreal, they've got New Jersey and Pittsburgh to end the season. The one team I think I'll say is Tampa. And I think that win last night against the Rangers really gave them, a huge boost and a huge 2 points. And, with all these other teams, it is going to be, could be a fight right down to the final game for who gets in the 8th spot. And again, depending on what Philly does, and the Islanders are 4 back with 2 games in hand on Philly. So you win those games and all of a sudden you're basically in that same spot. All of a sudden that 3rd place in the Metropolitan becomes pretty significant as well. Well, we'll get back to focusing on the Jets tonight, and should be some fun scoreboard watching over the weekend, over the next little while. Have a great weekend, my man, and I will look forward to having you back on the show soon. Fill us in on what's coming up on S&P.
Yeah, thanks, and get better as well. But yeah, a new episode this morning came out, so tune into that, and then we'll break down a couple Laurent Brossoit starts. I'm saying the Jets find a way to do it. They haven't done it yet this year, but I'm bucking the trend. So we're going to talk about a couple LB victories. How about that?
I'll tell you what. Hopefully, first off, he plays so well tonight, they gives them a reason to give a good long consideration of your plan. That being said, I know we'll see him a couple times this week for sure. Have a good one, dude.
Yeah, sounds great. See you guys.
All right, we're going to get back to the Jets situation with Scott Billeck of the Winnipeg Sun coming up next. I want to extend a huge thanks to the great people at Princess Auto for their support of Winnipeg Sports Talk. Of course, Princess Auto, proudly founded right here in Winnipeg and committed to Winnipeg with their headquarters, national headquarters right here. not only supporting Winnipeg Sports Talk, but all of our local teams, including the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, as they welcome fans to Princess Auto Stadium this year to cheer on the blue and gold down at the U of M. Princess Auto, of course, is the place where you'll find the best deals on the most incredible and unique assortment of tools and equipment around. Everything you need to complete the projects on your list or start something new is at Princess Auto. Pop by and see them in store on Panet Road or Portage Avenue West. And you can always shop online 24/7, 365 at princessauto.com. We also want to thank the folks at Wallace & Wallace. Speaking of getting ready for spring, you know Wallace & Wallace are the fencing and overhead door specialist. You'll see their fences and trucks all over the city. And for all of your fencing needs, Wallace & Wallace has you covered. What you might not know is that they're also the overhead door specialist in Winnipeg, with the largest selection in Manitoba as the Clopay dealer here in town. They can also help you, though, with your maintenance, with the crazy weather, getting cold, getting warm again. This is the time to prevent downtime going into the new seasons. Give Wallace & Wallace a call to book your maintenance and inspection service call today. For residential and commercial overhead door sales and service, there's only one name or two you need to know. That is Wallace & Wallace. And speaking of the change of the seasons, fellas, I think a lot of you may be looking into the closet and realize it might be time to up that menswear game. Well, whether you need a suit for a particular event or just want to upgrade your workwear and more, F Apparel is the spot. Just an incredible selection of custom menswear waiting for you, starting with suits beginning at $400, along with chinos, golf pants, custom shirts, both tucked and untucked styles, and an amazing selection of menswear accessories. If you are getting married or in a wedding party coming up this summer, make sure to talk to the fellas at F about a 15% discount when the entire wedding party gets your suits at F Apparel. They've also got great deals for high school grads as well, so make sure to talk to the guys at F about that. Pop by and see them, 190 Smith Street downtown. You can also find out more online or make an appointment at F. That's EPHapparel.com. And as we look ahead to spring and summer, I am counting down the days to fishing season. And you know on Winnipeg Sports, when we're talking fishing, we're getting fired up to head back to Aikens Lake Wilderness Lodge. A one-of-a-kind, incredible fly-in fishing experience right here in Manitoba, where you can be on the water in less than 2 hours from the city of Winnipeg. And as incredible as the world-class fishing is that awaits guests at Aikens Lake, the hospitality of the Aikens team and the Terren family is even better. Head on over to aikenslake.com, find out more about everything available at Aikens coming up, and you can contact them as well about pricing and availability options and booking dates for the 2024 fishing season. aikenslake.com online, and make sure to check them out on all their social channels at Aikens Lake. All right, let's continue getting ready for the weekend and welcome in Scott Billeck from the Winnipeg Sun. Scotty, great to have you on the program as always. And while we're getting Scott up here, Remo, if you could as well, put up these lines that the Jets have just tweeted out. Scott, I'll sort of update you. We've been following the reports from practice this morning, and it was put out that it looked like we were going to see Dylan Samberg and Colin Miller have the night off and Samberg and Schmidt in. But now as we see what the Jets have just put out, kind of looks like it's going to be the same six before. Any clarity on how the blue line's going to look from this morning?
Yeah, I mean, I don't have I don't believe the line rushes really were line rushes this morning. So, I mean, there's that. I wonder, I mean, here's the thing. If they're going to do this, it makes sense tonight against the Anaheim Ducks, right? Like if they aren't going to play Samberg. I don't even think Samberg should come out. Like I think that's a weird call if Samberg was the guy to come out. We know Neil Pionk's been dealing with a little bit of bumps and bruises. I wonder if that, but I'm not going to speculate on that because I don't know exactly what's going on here at the moment. But I assume, like, if they wanted to give these guys a game, Logan Stanley and Nate Schmidt, that is, tonight would be the night, right? Tonight or even Sunday against Columbus, because you're sort of playing. And this isn't any knock against Schmidt or Stanley. It's just this is a game where the Jets should come out, dominate, win, respond to their not so good game on Wednesday and go from there. So we'll see what happens in the in the skate right before the game. But and who knows, right? This could have changed. We know that Mark Scheifele, he spoke today, right? I mean, he left halfway through the skate, and you guys joked about it earlier about the calling the dragon or whatever.
The dinosaur.
Calling the dragon would be cooler. But yeah, calling the dinosaur, which I guess it means barfing. But yeah, so who knows? I mean, maybe this is still going through the room. Maybe Scheifele, I don't know. It was sort of weird because yesterday at practice, they did the team photo, right? And so Gabe Vilardi and Mark Scheifele were out there for that. And then both of them retreated pretty quickly. Gabe for obviously his spleen issue that we learned about today, and Scheifele because he still had the flu. So yeah, it's interesting. I wonder if this is still going to be an issue going forward. I think we're going on 4 weeks now. I was looking back at the first guy that sort of had it. We heard about it. It was a couple road trips ago. And so yeah, we'll see what happens tonight. The forward lines look exactly right though. So those will be the lines tonight.
But that has Perfetti. And
you're right, because the lines earlier were Gustafsson, I believe. Here's the thing. I think Perfetti is playing tonight. That's just my that's my, I don't know what you'd call that. That's my inkling on that. That's what I've heard.
Okay, so let me say this to everyone that watched the first 15, 20 minutes of the show.
We'll find out at like 5.
We're taking a mulligan. Yeah, we're taking a mulligan on any predictions for this lineup tonight. We will take what we gather from what the Jets just tweeted out from their account and expect. Right. And I'll say this. I thought that the fourth line was good. Like, listen, no one was great in that game, but the best stuff the Jets had was from Adam Lowry's line and was from the fourth line. Like, the top six just didn't have it. And we spent enough time talking about the lack of execution going on. But I would suggest, and I was the one thing I said when we saw that report.
Hold on, Huss. 1 second. I got official confirmation here.
Okay.
So Perfetti is not playing.
Okay.
And either is the other two, Sandberg and Miller. So they're sitting. So basically what you see there on that Jets thing, that's all wrong.
Okay. So this is just okay. So we don't need a mulligan. We were right at the start of the show. We just usually we thank the Jets for everything they do. We've had a lot of great news right before we've gone on the air, which has helped us big time.
Yeah.
This was just the social media team screwing with us a little bit today. This afternoon.
Is just the way it goes.
Keeping us on our toes.
Yeah, this is the way it goes sometimes. And the thing is, and so again, the lines this morning, it was hard to sort of decipher, and I think that's why a lot of people didn't tweet them out. Credit to John Liu. Yeah, I mean, he got them right. So, but yeah, and my whole thing with this is I assume all of this just has to do with the very tight schedule, right? There's 16 games in 29 days. And you want to get Gus and especially Nate Schmidt and Logan Stanley playing, because this is what you're going into the playoffs with, right? I mean, it's going to change now a little bit, and I expect that you'll see this against maybe some of the team. I imagine going forward, the Jets are going to ice their playoff lineup in all of their games that they play against top opponents, right? So guys above the playoff line, right? We're going to see it next week in New York with games against the Rangers and all that sort of thing, right? So I assume, just going by kind of what we know about Rick Bowness and the way over the last couple of years, they're going to ice their best line against the best teams, and then heading into the playoffs, because they have this glut of players that are healthy right now. They'll mix those guys in when there's a lesser opponent to play. Again.
Okay, so here's just the only thing I'll say about this, and just my take on it. I don't care. You want to give those other defensemen a game against the Ducks, go for it. There's tons of hockey going forward.
Right.
Sandberg's been awesome all year. Give him a night off. No worries. Miller's coming in. That's fine. The only thing that I was about to say until we got clarification on Perfetti is that I thought Perfetti looked good, and really the last couple of games, Rick Bowness was very complimentary of the fourth line in the game against Washington, and for good reason. They really want to get him going. And listen, if everyone's healthy and he's not in the lineup right now, I mean, big picture, not a big deal. Not sure that right now with where his game's at, he projects to be a real difference maker in the playoffs or a guy. So I can live with all of that. But I will say this, a game like this against the Ducks, who played last night in Minnesota, I think this is a good opportunity to maybe get him in. But to be honest, and this brings us to the Vilardi situation, if there's the possibility that Gabriel Vilardi is going to be out for a long period of time, potentially into the playoffs, all of a sudden, the need to get Cole Perfetti feeling good and maybe back in one of those situations, I think is cranked up considerably. And this might be a good time to get him in and, continued feeling good about his game and hopefully, get off the schneid, pop one, get a couple points that might not be available in some of the other games with limited ice time. That's the only thing I'll say about this, and I'll expect that he'll be back in the lineup against Columbus, and hopefully that happens.
Well, I guess one thing here is there are back-to-back games here where you are playing, let's call them have-not teams. And so you can do this.
Well, dude, those back-to-back games, okay, well, I mean, they're not back-to-back, but consecutive games.
Consecutive games. Consecutive games against have-not teams, right? Teams that are way below the playoff line that aren't going to make it. And I guess that's the thought process behind this. And I agree with you. Like, I think this team should be doing everything it possibly can to get kind of Cole Perfetti going. Perhaps so, and again, we only see 20 to 25% of what's going on, right? That's usually the thing. Maybe this is the right move for Cole Perfetti. Also, maybe he's not feeling well. I mean, who knows, right? But I mean, at the same time, I don't know what they're trying to do. Like, I honestly think like Cole Perfetti can be a positive contributor. I think we've seen it, right? But he's gone, like you said. It's been a long time. It's been a long time since he scored. He got a point the other night, which ended a long time since he had even a point in a game. And so, I mean, I would like to see him more involved. But I do wonder, are they still nursing whatever his wrist injury is, right? The one that Rick Bowness kind of just dropped on everybody and nobody was expecting in terms of his face-offs and why he wasn't taking them and all that. So I'm curious about that too. But I kind of thought tonight would be the night if Vlad Nemestikov's toe is sore or his foot or whatever, maybe that was the night to move Perfetti back into a center job and let Nemestikov take the night off. But I don't know. It is what it is. I mean, this is the problem with. I think they've made their decision on Cole Perfetti, and this is kind of what they're going with. But I will say this about Perfetti, and I know there's lots of angst about him in the chat, and we heard that going into the deadline. Listen, Cole Perfetti is still a really young player. He's hit the wall in his first full, long NHL season that he hadn't had before when he'd been in the league. Whatever happens this year, he is a big part of this team moving forward. And much like we were talking about Quentin Byfield at the end of last year, and I'm not putting Perfetti in Byfield's class, but he had a ton of playing time, was not productive. There was a lot of people that were like, okay, well, we blew it with this pick. And now he's one of the most dynamic young players in the game. So it is important to be patient with these young players. But I guess bringing us back to Vilardi, this could be the opportunity that Cole Perfetti absolutely wanted. And again, I consistently go back to Rucker McGroarty, maybe more so than I should, because I'm so personally excited to see what he can do for this team and the package that he brings in. But I'll tell you what, I think everything's on the table for the Winnipeg Jets if Gabriel Vilardi's out long term. I mean, just speak to that injury, what we heard today, and how you see things going forward, knowing that we have no idea when he's going to be able to play again. Yeah, and, I was kind of doing my little Dr. Billeck kind of Googling, what is an enlarged spleen? How do you not know this was the thing? And apparently there's zero symptoms of an enlarged spleen, and often it's caught the way that it was caught, right? It's often caught through some other sort of, usually a routine physical kind of figures it out, right? doctors poking and prodding you, and they sort of figure out that you got this enlarged spleen. And there's a bevy of causes to it. But yeah, in the terms of the lineup, I mean, I guess here's the one thing, Huss, I'll say this. I mean, you know, this team has done well without Gabe Vilardi in the lineup, and they've had a few times this season where they've had to deal with that. So that's, I suppose, a silver lining here. But yeah, I think it's going to be very difficult to kind of plot when Vilardi comes back in. And one of the things that you can say, you know, does he need surgery? Does he not need surgery to fix it? And what does that look like, right? I mean, I don't know how it differs from a ruptured spleen, you know, the one that we're talking about with Mark Stone in terms of recovery time. You know, I think people have read like 3 to 6 months on those things.
Yeah, that was for a laceration.
Laceration.
Spleen,
yeah,
which is what we believe. Yeah,
right.
3 to 6 months.
So that's one. But what does an
well
enlarged spleen do? Right? Like, do you need to surgically operate on this? Can you manage it some other way? I mean, these are things I don't know. I'm not a doctor. So, but yet I think they have to prepare for it, right? They got to prepare for it. They talked a little bit today about, or Rick Bowness talked about moving Nikolai Ehlers back to the right side on the top line if it's not working on the second, or if the top line's not working. So there is that that they can do. This is a problem right now, Huss, because I think, you know, if this team was sort of fine tuning down the stretch here, that would be one thing. But right now, this team is sort of trying to find its identity again, right? Like they've sort of gotten lost now in this kind of inconsistent mix of hockey. And we've seen that. I mean, you look at the last 4 games, just, you know, or you can go back, and I've written about this a little bit, going back to that Boston Bruins game. They lost 4-1 where the 34-game streak came to an end, and they're basically NHL 500 since then, 11-9-1. So basically 11-10, right? They've taken a point out of that one game, obviously, but yeah, I mean, they've struggled since that date in trying, and we've seen it. We've seen how good this team looks. Saw it against Washington, saw it in the second game against Seattle, and then we've seen how tough it can be for this team out on the ice there against Vancouver and then the last game there on Wednesday. So yeah, I mean, it's an interesting time for the team, and you would sort of like to be, like I said, fine tuning, finding, you know, the little thing, making the little tweaks to the roster. But right now, this team is trying to find a way to play a, you know, consistent 60-minute game, and so we'll see. I mean, it's hard to be worried about this team just yet. Like, but I think now is where sort of the worry comes, because you're like, you know, why can't they put it together like they did at the beginning of the season, right? Like, why is it not
82
happening?
Is a long time, man.
I agree with you.
There's not a lot of teams that can
right,
pull
and we're
it
seeing
off.
with Vegas right now, right? Like, I mean, Vegas is is 4 points out of losing their playoff spot, and they lost. You know, the Minnesota Wild now have moved 4 points back with their win last night against
2 head-to-head games as well. Although I think they have.
So this is the thing: like, the Jets could be going to Minnesota potentially for the first round, and not Vegas.
Sign me up for that.
Well, totally, because it's just a nice little drive down there and all that. But yeah, like it's an interesting time right now for this team. But again, I'm not. They're going to make the playoffs, but you know, all teams are sort of going through this sort of thing. And so I think the Jets still deserve a bit of benefit of the doubt here. They played really well early on, but they do need to clean up some stuff.
They have it there. They know they have it,
right?
and we've seen it back and forth. But yes, I mean, to your point, you would like it more consistently right now. And this is going to be a big test heading out on the road to play some good teams, some hungry teams, and a couple teams in New Jersey and the Islanders that are playing for their playoff lives every single night they go out. Just back to our spleen convo. Shout out to the Mayo Clinic. The treatment for an enlarged spleen just depends on what's causing it. And again, you mentioned it usually doesn't cause symptoms. It's discovered through routine physical exams. And the doctor usually can't feel the spleen in an adult unless it's enlarged. Imaging and blood tests can cause that. And then as far as the complications or complications of it, it can reduce the number of healthy red blood cells, platelets, white blood cells, leading to more frequent infections. But it can also lead to a ruptured spleen, which can cause life-threatening bleeding in your belly, which is why this can be such a serious thing that is taken seriously enough. So, I mean, you can only just hope that it is not at a point where it is overly serious right now, and some rest and whatever they can do to get this back and get Gabriel Vilardi back in the mix. But moving forward, I mean, this next couple of weeks, a lot of hockey for the Winnipeg Jets. And I think it goes back to this decision tonight, as you mentioned. I mean,
yeah,
you know, and I'll give them credit for doing this because in a lot of times we have, and maybe they just haven't felt they've had the luxury to be able to do this, to play some of their 7, 8 guys, to play that 13th forward. But now is a perfect time to do it. And again, we kind of talked about the defense core, and we'll see how that looks tonight with Stanley and Schmidt coming back into the lineup.
Yeah.
The other guy that I think actually deserves to be in the lineup that is in tonight is David Gustafsson, in that I think he was ready to come back a lot longer before he actually came back, and that's another conversation entirely.
Yeah.
But he has not done anything, I think, to lose any confidence of the coaching staff. And when we think about the style of game that is played in the playoffs, the quality of opponents that they'll be going up against, the 200-foot game of David Gustafsson is something that I think could very well be something that they lean on right now, you know, in that fourth line right now. I mean, to me, Kupari is below Gus, below Perfetti.
Yeah.
I mean, I said this to a friend. I would be surprised if we saw Rasmus Kupari in any sort of playoff action. I think that's sort of where he is. And I wouldn't be surprised, to be perfectly frank, if a guy like Axel Jonsson-Fjallby, once Black Aces are called up in and around, might get in before him because of what he's been able to do on the PK. And frankly, what he showed with Winnipeg and with the Moose so far this year.
Yeah.
The biggest wild card is what happens if a McGroarty gets signed and where he comes in
Yeah.
and where he might end up. But this is the sort of thing, and I mentioned him and Perfetti, that a long-term injury for Gabriel Vilardi might change the scenario or situation, or at least opportunity for both of those players to go up and grab it.
100%. Yeah. And I totally agree with you. I'm so interested on Rutger McGroarty, Huss, because like, I wonder if he comes in and starts playing in the top 6, right? Like it, or if not the top 6, and it's possible he could come right into the top 6. But maybe alongside Adam Lowry and Nino Niederreiter too, because you could move Mason Appleton down. That said, we know that Rick Bowness has been very apprehensive about doing that. He doesn't want to do it. He really likes how that line is played and doesn't change them. Like if you look at all the games where this team has pulled out the line blender, that's the one line that's the constant, right? Like they've left that line alone because it's basically their shock troops, right? They put that line out in all sorts of situations, you know, after the power play, after the penalty kill, start of the game, right? After they get scored on, after they score a goal. Like, I mean, they play everywhere. So yeah, it's an interesting. I am curious though about Rutger McGroarty, because I think a guy coming like that with that sort of energy and that sort of thing, those are the types of things that can invigorate your team a little bit and going forward. So we'll see on him. Going back to Gus, yeah, like I agree. Gus is the type of guy that I think he's just dependable, right? I mean, the only knock against him is he's just been injured a lot, right? And that's part of the problem. He's been injured, and then you're right. I mean, I believe there was cap purposes and other things like that. Obviously, I can't prove any of that, but
well, it's just they didn't want to put guys on waivers.
Well, that too. There was
those
also
guys,
that
the other
too,
guys
exactly.
that were playing, and that's Toninato as well, who, I mean, it would be a potential player, was in, and I mean, they just couldn't do it at the time, and they didn't.
Exactly.
So it's what it is.
AJF,
We'll have lots of time to talk about this as we get kind of through this next couple weeks and into April when things clear out a little bit more. And the Wolverine season could end, I guess, not officially on the weekend. They're playing Minnesota tomorrow, but they do. I think the consensus is they'll probably get a spot in the tournament, which means he'll still be around for a little bit. Anyways, Billeck, we got to run. Enjoy the game tonight. Have a good weekend, and we will talk to you next week on WST.
Yeah, enjoy the week. Enjoy the game tonight, and see you guys next week.
You got to appreciate the super chat from Stan Scott. No excuses, but what team is able to have it all together for 82 games? Points-wise, the Jets have stayed in the mix of the top teams. That's absolutely correct. But again, I think it points to the urgency to get back, take advantage of these next couple games, and get the game in a right spot going into MSG to play one of the top teams in the New York Rangers coming up on Tuesday. Hacksaw is coming up in a few minutes. There is so much happening from a crazy week in the NFL. But in just a minute, we're going to take a quick visit with our friends at Sport Manitoba and the upcoming Manitoba Winter Games. Marbles still to come. Don't go anywhere as WST continues. And as we get ready for the playoffs and the playoff excitement increases, do not forget, Winnipeg Jet fans, that you can get priority access and count yourself in for the entire 2024 playoffs right now by putting down a deposit on season tickets or ticket packages for the upcoming 2024-2025 season. Head on over to winnipegjets.com/deposit. Full list of the benefits of being a season ticket member or ticket package holder for the upcoming seasons there, map and pricing and more. And if you do it now, you will be in the same seat for all of the whiteouts down at Canada Life Centre, hopefully for a long and very fun playoff run for the Winnipeg Jets. Again, right now, the We're All In campaign continues. It's winnipegjets.com/deposit for more on that. And while speaking of the playoffs, probably a trip down to Royal Sports is going to be necessary as everyone gets their whites ready for the Winnipeg Jets and whoever they're playing come April. There is simply no better sports store anywhere than Royal Sports. And if you're a Winnipeg Jet fan, thousands of pieces of Jets merchandise, white and otherwise, all of the jerseys, and still plenty of time to get your jersey customized with your favorite player, name, number, just in time for the postseason. So much more than just Jets merch as well, though, at Royal. Tons of Bomber gear, Major League Baseball, with Jays starting up right now, NFL and more. The biggest hockey section in town, all of the spring sports loading in by the day, and tons of cool stuff on the Kings skate, snow, and surf side. Pop by and see it for yourself. Royal Sports, 750 Pembina Highway, and make sure to give them a follow on Instagram at Royal Sports Pembina for the latest merchandise drops and sale information. And speaking of those playoffs, I mean, if you're not in the building or the team is on the road, you know the best place to get together with your gang to watch the big game is your local Boston Pizza. All the Jets games on the big screen with big sound, not to mention those ice-cold schooners, world-famous BP wings, gourmet pizzas, and some great new treats on the BP appetizer menu. There's simply nothing like getting together at your local BP. And if you are staying at home, though, you can get the great taste of Boston Pizza by ordering online at bostonpizza.com.
You train day in and day out, learning new techniques, approaching new concepts, and living out the thrill of achieving your goals. Building a craft beer is no different. While you spend your hours on the ice, we spend ours here, brewing our trademark beer. Again, again, and again. Here's to pushing the status quo and challenging ourselves to build something memorable. 1919 by Little Brown Jug.
All right, let's get into another It Takes a Community to Play segment along with our friends at Sport Manitoba, proudly sponsored and brought to you in part by Manitoba Liquor and Lotteries. And we head out west, getting ready for this summer's Manitoba Summer Games with Clayton Swanton, the Host Society co-chair of the event. Clayton, welcome to Winnipeg Sports Talk. How are you?
Hey, I'm great. Thanks for having me.
You know, we spoke with your other co-chair, Carla, about a few months ago, and it was just great to talk to her because you felt the excitement in the community, but also the scope of the event. I imagine you're right there with her and working hard, but really looking forward to what is such a massive event for the young athletes as well as the Parkland region.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, Carla's been a great co-chair. Both of us, when we were approached to take this on, it's got to be 6 or 7 years ago now because we had to postpone because of COVID. But we each said, hey, if the other one will do it, I'll join in too. And we've been at it together for a lot of years, and such a great crew below us, helping to fill all of our committees and pull this thing together.
Well, I mean, it's a perfect segment with Sport Manitoba. You know, we call It Takes a Community to Play because of how many hands and how many people are involved helping out pulling these things off. And we'll get to that in a minute. But for folks that maybe missed it, I mean, the Manitoba Summer Games is a very, very special event. And it is a highlight of the athletic careers of many young athletes. Give us just a quick rundown of the scope of the event, who's participating in it, and then we'll sort of get to everything that has to happen on the back end to make it work.
Right. Yeah. So it's a week-long event broken into 2 phases. So from August 11th to the 17th, we are going to host over 1,800 athletes, 900 plus in phase 1, and then Wednesday is our turnaround day where in our community, all 1,800 athletes will be here at the same time because the buses bringing phase 2 in are going to take phase 1 home, right? So, and then you from Wednesday afternoon on till the Saturday, you've got the second phase. So, the scope of it is massive. Having to house that many athletes, we're using the high school for and our middle school for that. You think of that, you got classrooms that have to be completely cleaned out, cots set up, make it a living area based on the amount of square footage. You've got to do a bunch of math per room to see who's going to fit where and all that kind of stuff. So that's a whole thing. And then you've got your, I think it's 14 different sports that are going to all get to compete and like you say, some of them that'll be the pinnacle of their sport career.
The 14 different sports, 1,800 athletes. I mean, it's a huge event. What are the ages of the athletes, and does it vary from sport to sport, or is it pretty consistent?
Yeah, it varies from sport to sport, and it depends. Every sport gets to kind of pick what development age they're working towards. Some are saying, well, look, this is going to be a lead into a Canada game, so this segment of athlete is what we want to focus on. But I think you might have some athletes as young as 10 and up to 17. That's kind of the range. But every sport's going to be different on how they want to use it as sport development.
I imagine that amongst the youngsters in Dauphin and Clear Lake and that whole area, a particular amount of buzz amongst those young kids who might be able to participate as home athletes, if you will.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's going to be really exciting for those kids for sure, right? Like if you're getting to participate in the Manitoba Summer Games in your home community and you've got everybody there, the volunteers, them all and all the rest of it, it's got to be a totally different vibe, right? So it's exciting for every athlete to get selected, but we as a host community are certainly excited to watch the selection process unravel over the next couple months and see who gets picked for what.
Well, and of course, there's a lot of work being done by the athletes to try to qualify and be a part of this big event. The work is continuing with you and your group on making this thing happen and being ready for them all. Give us an idea about the scope of how important volunteers are to an event like this, and the scope of the needs and opportunities for people to come in and make a difference in such a big event and helping something that is such a highlight for so many youngsters in their athletic careers.
Yeah, I mean, the volunteer committee is that's such a massive undertaking. Our co-chairs and that committee that stepped up to take that, we're so appreciative because it's going to take about 1,200 volunteers, anywhere from 1,000 to 1,500, as they work through their workforce schedule and see where they need people and when. But you think of Dauphin as a community, as a city itself is 8,500 people. I think at one point we might have been a little more, but I think that's a good range of where we're at. And then so you think of 1,200 people, that is more than 10% of your entire population has to be involved on games week to pull this thing off, right? So of course we have a much larger trading area. Dauphin services an area of 40 to 50,000 people, and we're drawing on everybody. And but it's a huge undertaking to get everybody signed up and their criminal record checks done if that's a requirement for their role, and then assigning them their particular area and all that kind of thing. It's a massive undertaking.
As important as it is to have those volunteers, we have heard this over and over again in similar segments we've done with Sport Manitoba about the value to the volunteers of being part of an event like that. I mean, I know you're still working to fill everyone and get things done up, but through your experience in previous events and knowing what it is, how rewarding is it for the people that decide, what, I'll come in and I'll give some of my time to help something that's come out, and their feelings about spending that time doing it after the fact, being part of such an event that means so much to so many.
Yeah, you nailed it. It's that feeling you get from giving back to your community, right? Like everybody who's on the org chart understands that when you give back your time to your community, it has such a long lasting impact, especially from an event like this, right? So we still have people every time the games come up. Oh, I remember volunteering in 2004, the last time Dauphin hosted, and that comes up. We're 20 years later, right? And that's still a highlight of their volunteerism careers, right? So we're really excited about exposing our younger citizens to an event of this size and what they might get their first sense of a 4-hour shift at a volunteering and say like, wow, that was really enjoyable. Didn't expect that, right? So that's Dauphin's really good at pulling together volunteers, and you nailed it. It's that great feeling you get from knowing that you've given back.
Clayton Swanton's the host society co-chair for the upcoming Manitoba Summer Games this August in Dauphin and out in the western part of the province. Clayton, we talked about, the benefits of volunteering and how important it is to get the volunteers to pull this thing off. Certainly, I know you guys are doing a lot in the community to get volunteers, but for people that might be from the city but spend time out there in the summer, what sort of opportunities are there available? What are you looking for? And how do people find out more about, what their schedule might permit them to come and, work out there at the event, popping in and out for a week?
Yeah, that's a great point. We've got, you think of how many people summer in Clear Lake, 45 minutes away, they camp there in the summer anyways, and there's all kinds of campgrounds around here. They might choose to do a week out here. If they're interested in volunteering, they can go to the Sport Manitoba's Manitoba Summer Games website, and there's an easy link on there to get signed up. And then you could be specific about, I want to help at golf, right? You can just say, hey, I'm easy, just let me know what's available and I'll let you know closer to what my schedule allows, right? So the main thing for us right now is just getting names in the database, and we can figure the rest out later. But it's important for us right now, just if you're at all interested, just to get yourself signed up there, and then we can figure out the rest after that.
In addition to, the obvious needs for volunteers and the planning and everything that's going on, I can't imagine how many meetings you're involved in right now and how many people are involved. But you're also looking to raise funds for the event. And the 50-50 draw that you guys have put together is pretty interesting because it's actually open right now. There's multiple draws leading up to it. And then I'm sure it'll be a big part of fundraising during the event. Fill people in on that 50-50 project that you've got that's actually open right now.
Yeah, we like you say, it does, the scope of the budget of trying to make this thing happen means that, we've got to do some revenue generation. So the 50-50 is a great way to do that. It's fun. It helps us build excitement leading into the games. So we've opened that just recently for our first draw, which is going to be April 11th. And then we'll have multiple draws leading up to the games as we hit particular milestones with how many days out from the games we are. And we've attached a progressive on there. So every time we do a draw, part of the pot goes back to that progressive as well. So, games week, this pot could be pretty exciting, and games week will obviously be a big one for us, but leading in, it's kind of a way for us to build some excitement and give, we hope people are, most people at this point are familiar with funding change, and they've done it for, their kids' hockey or whatever, right? So they've already got an account built in. So if you go to funding change, you've got the address up there, and search for Manitoba Games, you'll find us, and we'll be doing a bunch of promo of that in the near future.
Yeah, we'll throw that in the chat right now if you want to, grab a ticket that, is good for the entire running of the event. And if you're watching this after the fact, check the description. We'll have a link in the description along with the Manitoba Summer Games on how you can find out more about volunteering, being involved in the event, or supporting the event through the 50-50 draw. Clayton, I did want to talk just before we go. I mean, our focus is trying to, let people know about this event and, hopefully help generate some more interest and some more bodies to help you guys put on a first-class, world-class event for all the young Manitobans that'll be participating. But from your perspective as part of the host chair that's born and raised in a community like Dauphin, hosting an event like this is massive for it for so many reasons, but there are also long-lasting effects. Like, What do you hope the legacy of the Manitoba Games will be for your community and the young athletes and families, basically, long beyond the middle of August when all the athletes go home with their medals?
Yeah, well, I can speak to it from my perspective. I said yes to the co-chair role because I knew that this was a prime opportunity to upgrade all of our sports facilities in our community. If you host the games, you've got to be polished. You've got to meet every sports standards, all those kinds of things. So to me, it felt like a great way to give back to my community by doing it this way. When we first were awarded the games, my daughter had just been born. She's now 6 years old, and these facilities that we're creating now, she's going to get the benefit from for the next, her entire schooling life and time in Dauphin. And so for me, that was huge. And some examples of the capital projects that we had to do was, we didn't have a mountain bike facility. Mountain biking was one of the sports. So instead of just creating a 4-kilometer cycling track, we partnered with another local organization, created the Dauphin Derailers Cycle Club out of it, and we've got Northgate Community Trails, which is 26 kilometers of world-class facilities. And if it wasn't for hosting the games, we wouldn't have been able to spearhead that project, give them the seed money to make the plan, and then that club just ran with it. And they've created such an economic driver for our region that if it wasn't for the games, that just wouldn't have happened, right? And we're doing the same thing now this time around as we get ready for 2024 with our high school track. It was built for the 2004 games. It's run, that asphalt has ran its life cycle and it needs to be redone. So that's another massive legacy that we're going to get to leave behind when the games are gone. We've got another generation that gets to experience a first-class track. So
just another benefit of volunteering for events like this, because you see what events like this do for the community well into the future, beyond the big couple weeks that will be taking over. And man, it's going to be fun and wild to see so many young athletes there doing what they do, looking to win medals, and most importantly, have an incredible athletic experience with the village and meeting others. There really is nothing like it every summer. All the best moving forward. Again, folks, you can go to the Sport Manitoba website and find out more on the Manitoba Games. We'll put the link in the description with volunteering opportunities. We certainly encourage you to find out more if you're able to spend some time making it happen. And Clayton, in the meantime, best of luck to you and Carla and the entire community getting ready for 1,800 young Manitobans chasing their dreams at the Manitoba Summer Games this summer.
Excellent. Thanks so much for all your promotion and support.
All right, great stuff with our friends at Sport Manitoba, and really looking forward to that Manitoba Summer Games event out in Dauphin this summer. If you are able to help out, lend a hand, and get involved, definitely recommend you do that. You can find out more on all of it over at the Sport Manitoba website. All right, a couple things of business. We're about to get into just almost unprecedented week in the National Football League with Hacksaw when it comes to player movement. But we are going to try to get right to marbles as soon as possible because we do want to get the pot up ASAP because of the game tonight. So the registration for marbles is open and on right now. You know how to do it, folks. !marbles in the chat, and we will get to that coming up in a few minutes. But first, it ain't Friday without a visit from Hacksaw, and what a week to be talking NFL offseason with the man himself. Lee, what's going on? Has your head stopped spinning after it seems like every 5 minutes there's some more big news over a significant NFL player moving on?
Yeah, well, you know what? A week ago, I was covering the NHL like you were covering the NHL, and I kept track. I think there were 44 trades. I think it was an all-time record. How about this? As we talk right now on a Friday, there have been 151 free agent signings in 4 days. I mean, it's just astounding. And I think we've now had, I believe it's either 7 or 8 trades, some of them with significant names. So the business of the league has changed. I think we have a new breed of general manager, hustler. These guys come in, want to win, want to run it their way with their theories. And if they're trading popular players, they don't care because that was not my guy. The salary cap is strangling a bunch of teams, which has kind of been a trigger point to make some of these other trades have to happen. And it's like NFL general managers don't view draft picks, unless you're in the top 4 or 5 picks, they don't view it as critical currency. They'd rather, move second and third and fourth round picks and throw-ins to make these transactions occur. So 151 players have changed teams in 4 days. It's just staggering.
Yeah, I mean, we can't get to all of them, but let's get to a couple. Like, just in the past 24 hours, there's been some big moves. And for folks that have been with us since the start of the show talking Jets, probably not aware that the Pittsburgh Steelers have traded their hometown kid that they just picked in the first round, Kenny Pickett, to the Philadelphia Eagles. And it seems like it's a pick swap, so no real major currency exchanging hands. Trubisky's gone. Mason Rudolph's gone. Now Kenny Pickett's gone. The entire quarterback room's been cleaned out. They've got Russell Wilson on a bargain basement $1 million deal, Lee. First of all, why do you think Kenny Pickett is out? And might this resuscitate a bit of value for Justin Fields, who we all expected would be traded by now and is still a member of the Bears?
Well, you put a lot of stuff here on my bulletin board. Let's try to run through it real quick. I was told by an NFL source, an executive, Pickett asked to be traded when they made the deal to get Russell Wilson. And I don't believe it's a one-year deal. They're writing it as a one-year deal at $1.1 million because Denver has to pay the rest of it. I believe there's going to be some type of option there, and the option will be worth $30 million. But to me, it's a bit of a gamble. I mean, Pickett is a bit of a gunslinger, and he played well in spurts, didn't play well in spurts, but that's a byproduct of what's not around him. It's a big issue in Pittsburgh because they're trying to fix the franchise. They do have solid running backs. Their wide receivers have been skitterish. They went through a massive overhaul. I swear, I couldn't name an offensive lineman. I don't think you could either. I mean, so they're gone through transition. And I thought Pickett was really the long-term future. And you can't make a judgment on a young quarterback very early in his career when there's so many other things that are in flux on the roster. So, and the other thing is, somebody needs to explain this one to me. Pickett's a different quarterback. Pickett's a pocket passer. Jalen Hurts is running RPOs and everything else. Isn't a square peg round hole? That's kind of a weird acquisition, I think, for the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, which Russell Wilson shows up? Is the one that was so dynamic for a decade with the Seattle Seahawks, or is it the one that looked like he was an aging old man on a bad team playing in Denver? But I trust the Steelers player personnel people because historically they've done really well on the draft and their player acquisitions, and they teach. I think it's a very well-run organization. So they got Wilson for one and maybe a second year. And I don't know if that changes what Pittsburgh does in the draft because, there are, at this point, it looks like there are going to be 6 guys taken in the first round of the draft. Now, they're at the back end, so that'll be interesting to see who goes where there. And the Justin Fields thing, I did a deep dive statistically on him. And even though he's made pretty good improvement in Chicago in the last year in terms of consistency, and even though he's had some, marvelous games, the 200-yard passing, 100-yard rushing, when I did the deep dive, I looked at all types of stats on him, and his numbers are really flawed. Interceptions, fumbles, turnovers. We're talking alarming numbers. He's got more total turnovers than he has touchdown passes with the Chicago Bears. And some guys are gifted athletically, but just can't handle playbooks and can't do what needs to be done. So, we're sitting here 4 days into free agency, and he hasn't been traded, and there's no rumors out there he's about to be traded. And he's in the final year of an affordable contract. So maybe with Caleb Williams arrives, Caleb Williams will be carrying Justin Fields golf bags for 1 year while he goes to class and red shirts and learns how to play. But Fields statistically is really kind of flawed. I've never seen a guy take as many sacks as he did. 135 sacks, I think, in 3.5 years. And he's been hurt multiple times because he does run the pocket, etc. So, yeah, Pickett and Fields, what a way to start this conversation. And we haven't gotten to the big names who moved from team to team.
Well, why don't we just focus in on the quarterbacks for a minute? And I don't know if you even want to touch on the most ridiculous bit of quarterback news of this entire week, that apparently Aaron Rodgers might be a candidate for vice president of the United States. This guy, maybe we won't touch on that. It's just too ridiculous. But Lee, there's been
I'm tired of the act. That's the problem. It's a great quarterback. I'm just tired of all the off the field stuff. I won't cover it. I don't need it. You shouldn't pay any attention to it either. And yeah, vice president. Of course, who'd be the president? That guy's a crackpot on top of everything else.
Yeah.
But you don't want to get into politics. Don't want to get into U.S. politics.
But for a guy, the only thing I'll say about Rodgers is like the day before this broke, he's like, I did a lot of watching while I was out last season, and this team needs to be solely focused on winning football games, blah, 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 blah. And then this comes out. I mean, he might be, and probably is, the most disingenuous athlete in all of sports. But let's talk about the guys on the field right now, Lee. Quarterback carousel, to say the least, in and around this National Football League, starting with Kirk Cousins, the big fish on the free agent market, going to the ATL.
Okay, let me just run through this. Kirk Cousins has been a really statistically driven, I'd say successful quarterback. He's been a bigger success as an entrepreneur. You know how much money he's made in Washington, in Minnesota, and this package he just got? Now, I'm not going to denounce him, but his career record is something like 73 and maybe it's 79 and 63. We're not talking about a Tom Brady posting up wins after wins after wins. He fit well with Kevin O'Connell. They were caught in the vice of the salary cap because they might lose their defensive end. They eventually did lose Danielle Hunter. They got problems in the secondary. They got a futures contract they have to solve with Justin Jefferson. There's too many guys going to get paydays and they couldn't afford it. He goes to Atlanta. Here's the most unique thing about that decision to become an Atlanta Falcon. If you go back and look at recent drafts, number one pick on tight end Kyle Pitts out of Florida. Number one pick on USC wide receiver Drake London. Number one pick on Texas running back Bijan Robinson. And they just made another deal. I can't remember off the top of my mind. Oh, they made a trade with Arizona, and they got Rondale Moore. They've got a lot of weapons around a quarterback, and they needed a quarterback that wasn't going to throw bounce passes. This is going to be fun because Cousins now, he's got a cachet of skilled people. So that's that he'll go out. I think his career will wrap up in Atlanta, and it will probably be very successful because, boy, they put a lot of people around him. They just needed a trigger man. So Cousins was item number one. Baker Mayfield elected to stay. He got a payday. I guess you could say he earned it on the 28 touchdown pass season that he had. They did re-sign Mike Evans, Chris Godwin. So Tampa looks pretty good in a skill position. We talked about Wilson going to Pittsburgh on a one-year rental that might turn into a little bit longer. The weird signing with the Raiders, because weeks and weeks leading up to the Combine, all Antonio Pierce was talking about was we can't have a Band-Aid situation any longer with the Raiders. We need a quarterback. And then they go out and get Gardner Minshew, gunslinger, who, he'll win some games. He'll probably throw some interceptions. But is that really what you want? Unless they're going to use the 13th pick and take the best of the second-tier quarterbacks there with the Raiders. Minnesota, I don't know what they see in Sam Darnold. He's got a great physical specimen, but I've never seen much accomplishment there. So they get him. I don't understand Arizona trading for Desmond Ridder from Atlanta. I mean, they got Kyler Murray, and Ridder hasn't done anything of specialty in Atlanta. That's why he's out of there. He threw some touchdown passes, but he's thrown a lot of interceptions. And they got all the backups. Jameis Winston didn't have a chance to play where he was in New Orleans because of Derek Carr. Before that, lost his job in Tampa. So Jameis Winston goes to Cleveland. Now, unless Deshaun Foster totally breaks down again, Deshaun Watson, unless he totally breaks down again, I don't see Winston getting off the bench at all. I think one of the most unique acquisitions was Seattle. Granted, they got Geno Smith in the final year of his contract, but Sam Howell, he played a lot in Washington as a young guy, got overwhelmed, threw a pile of TDs, had some big passing yardage days, took inordinate number of sacks because the team was so bad. That, to me, is kind of a novel acquisition, Sam Howell going from the Commanders to Seattle. Marcus Mariota goes to Washington. We've seen this movie before. Maybe he starts some, then he gets hurt, doesn't play. And then we had all those deep backup guys who transitioned other places. Tyrod Taylor goes from the Giants to the Jets. Drew Lock, who I think he's not a mystery. He just has not had all of his skill level unlocked. Drew Lock winds up going to the New York Giants. Mac Jones was traded out of New England. Mason Rudolph wound up going to Tennessee. And the one that hasn't solved the quarterback situation is Denver. So I don't know what's going to happen there with Sean Payton, but they're a mess. I mean, they have the worst salary cap situation in the league. Get this figure. Write this thing down. They have $67 million dead money against the cap this year in Denver. It might turn out to be the all-time worst in the National Football League. So
hate to see
that's
it.
Quarterback summary right there. It's very complicated, but I think Cousins is going to do really well. They're going crazy in Atlanta. I mean, for the first time since probably that Super Bowl run, boy, they got firepower. So, and Cousins will be the glue that'll hold it together. And I think he's a good quarterback. I don't know that he's a megastar, but geez, he's made mega money. Holy cow, what an entrepreneur he is.
He's bet on himself a number of times. He's always been in the right place at the right time as the cap's gone up, and he did it one more time. Lee, as much as there's been some crazy movement around the QBs, fantasy players, when they're getting ready to pick their teams next year, are going to need to be spending some extra time with that draft guide, because it seems like half the running backs in the NFL are on different teams as we talk today.
Oh, it's amazing. So now you raised the question, because all last year everybody is saying, well, we don't need running backs and we're going to devalue the running back. We're not going to pay these running backs big money any longer. And then all of a sudden you get Derrick Henry getting $9 million a season to go to Baltimore, and he's still got gas left in the tank. It'll be interesting to see, because he is a power stud, and he will complement, obviously, Lamar Jackson. Washington, which is in total rebuild, it's almost like they signed a whole team on offense in the last 4 days in free agency. You get Austin Eckler, who got to be in the right system, but boy, is he productive, the ex-Charger. And I don't think Giant fan can be happy. The guy walked across the bridge, across the river. Saquon Barkley is a Philadelphia Eagle, and he left the New York Giants to go to the hated division rivals. The Chargers have changed the whole personality. They signed Gus Edwards. He had almost 4,000 yards pounding it in Baltimore, averaging almost 5 yards per carry. Chargers signed him, and they're changing everything with the Chargers, including getting rid of their top 2 wide receivers and their top tight end in the last 72 hours. So he goes there. I don't know what the Raiders' thinking is. They just couldn't come to a contract, or did not want to overpay for Josh Jacobs. He goes to Green Bay. Tennessee got Tony Pollard from Dallas, kind of a multi-purpose guy. So I think that's a good acquisition. Joe Mixon, gone from Cincinnati, goes to Houston, and he's heavy duty, and he's going to make significant money. But I think they ran out of patience with him, because he was love me not, and I think they got tired of that act in Cincinnati. Minnesota, really good acquisition. I like Aaron Jones a lot. In fact, I was really surprised that Green Bay cut him, but that was a dollar thing more than it was anything else. And New England, their new coaches running around, we're going to burn some cash. Please tell me what they've done. They haven't done anything aside from getting rid of Mac Jones. They got Antonio Gibson's a multi-purpose guy from Washington. So for a whole year, everybody's been screeching about running backs are being devalued. We're not paying these dudes the money anymore because their careers are short. And how many names did I go through? 3, 6, 9, 10. 10 running backs changed teams in 4 days. Some of them really significant contracts.
Well, so much of this is going to be wrapped around a very intriguing NFL draft, and we'll look forward to getting to that over the coming weeks before we get to April and the draft. Lee, thanks so much for doing this as always. Loving the podcast. We'll often try and send our crew over when you're on right after we are. We'll do that again next week for some great NFL talk, and thanks so much for doing this. And
Great
we'll
to chat with you guys. And
watch the Jets Ducks tonight, eh?
Yeah. Anaheim, it's tough. I feel sad for the fans in Orange County. They've been in massive rebuild 9 years in a row now without making the playoffs. And, Pat Verbeek was given a clean piece of paper and said, change it, do what you want. And they had salary cap issues. And because they had bad seasons, he kept drafting at the top of the board. And they've got themselves some really good players, but they've just been besieged by injuries. If they could ever have all these guys on the ice at the same time, then maybe they would grow together, but they just can't keep players healthy. And there's something going on with them and Trevor Zegras that I don't quite understand. How can you trade this kid? I mean, this kid is pre-Connor Bedard, but he's got that type of skill level. And it's just a long run. And, I've talked to a lot of NHL people. You can't put so many 19, 20, and 21-year-olds on the ice simultaneously as a team. It's so hard to win in this league, and yet they're doing it night after night. And I feel so bad for John Gibson. He's a competitive, really good goaltender. We had a night where John Gibson looked at 30 shots in one period, Hustler. 30. And we had their backup goaltender, Lucas Distal, had 52 saves in a game last week. And if they're not getting blown out, then they're losing 3-1 or 2-0. They just can't score goals. I don't know when they're going to turn the corner. You can have all these assets, but doesn't mean it's going to equate to wins. It's just so hard to win with so many young guys. And of course, up the road, the enemy, the Kings, they've kind of righted their ship, and they've got a lot of veterans, and they got a lot of financial commitments to a lot of players. But if they can get everybody healthy and hot at the same time, goaltending a little suspect with the Kings. They couldn't take on any more players at the deadline. But Kings, if the Kings are healthy and hot, with all the variety of weapons they have, they could be dangerous, even though Vancouver seems to own the West, and we've got some other teams that are playing really well with Edmonton, etc.
It's going to be so wide open come playoff time. I mean, Winnipeg, Dallas, Colorado, Edmonton, Vegas, the Kings, the Canucks, as you mentioned, and now the Nashville Predators are the hottest team in the league. You can make an argument that any of those teams has what it takes to go on a big run. Lee, we got to run. Thanks for everything, folks. Go to LeeHacksawHamilton.com. Check the website. Links to the podcast on YouTube, wherever you get your favorites. Lee, have a great weekend. We'll talk to you next week.
Yeah, invite your people to subscribe. It's free, and that way you'll get the alerts every time we put something on the YouTube channel, even at 2 o'clock in the morning. We do a lot of work. It's kind of unique and different, and it's all your bleeping fault. You introduced me to podcast, and look what the heck has happened.
Good stuff.
Hustler,
Thanks.
I'll talk to you next Friday. You be well.
You got it. There you go. There's Lee Hacksaw Hamilton. And again, we could have gone for an hour and a half on talking NFL stuff. I see Craig Smith. Saw the Chiefs sign Hollywood Brown last night. Re-sign Chris Jones. Repeat? Well, we'll see. It's been a long time since they've been a three-peat champ. So, cross our fingers and maybe that happens next year. But let's wrap up marbles, everybody. Last call for marbles. If you just popped in, you still have a second. ! Marbles. We will get that in very quickly before we get to the Coolbet lines. Let's do, we got to get a golf update in here because it is the Players' Championship, and it is so great to have our friends at Breezy Bend back on board with Winnipeg Sports Talk this year. Our golf reports all season long. Brought to you by Breezy, the home of the champions. Find out more on everything going on at Breezy and over down at breezybend.ca. Wyndham Clark is the man today. Back-to-back 65s. He is in the clubhouse at 14 under par with a 5-shot lead right now over Matty Fitzpatrick and Maverick McNeely, who are in the clubhouse at 8 under par. Do not sleep, though, on Scotty Scheffler. He is 8 under, was 3 under today, was getting his neck and his back worked on in between holes. He's definitely right there in the mix. And as far as Canadians going on right now, we don't have to go too far down to see a Canadian flag on the scoreboard. Corey Connors also in at 8 under, tied for 4th. And Nick Taylor is also tied for 4th at 8 under, and he's got holes to go. He's 2 under on his round after a 66 yesterday. He is at 8 under as well. Rory McIlroy's even on his round. He is at 7 under par. Xander Schauffele, a co-first round leader at 7 under. He's 1 under as well. Obviously, TSN's got the coverage. We'll break it down, the winners and losers from the weekend for the biggest and richest event on the PGA Tour every year on Monday's edition. And again, welcome back and a huge thanks to Breezy Bend for their support of Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. All right, while Remis gets the marbles ready, let's take a quick look over at the Coolbet lines tonight. Only 2 games in the NHL, and with the Ducks playing last night in Minnesota and the Ducks being the Ducks, the Jets are a massive favorite tonight. Maybe the biggest favorite they've been all year. Minus 392 on the money line. Ducks plus 310. The puck line for tonight is minus 1.5, and it's still only minus 147. If you want to really go for the swing for the fences, you can bet Jets to win by 3 at plus 136. As far as your player props for tonight's game, For goals, Kyle Connor plus 131, Scheif, the birthday boy, plus 169, Tyler Toffoli plus 170, Ehlers plus 215, Sean Monahan plus 250. The other game, I'll just quickly tell you, Kings at Blackhawks. Kings a minus 268 favorite. Blackhawks plus 220. But we did cook up a couple beauties in the lock shop. Now, we've got a lock shop partner parlay from this Kings Blackhawks game. The two young phenoms, Connor Bedard to score, Quinton Byfield to score. That is at plus 850. But if you go down to the bottom, the Winnipeg Sports Talk parlay is up. There was nothing I could really do involving a Jet win because the odds were so long. So we're going with some player props. And the props have been hitting this week. Shout out to the Nasty Chat. We got another one last night. But this is a big one. Tyler Toffoli to score. Ehlers, Lowry, and Niederreiter all to get a point. Plus 1325. So that is a juicy number. We got a nice boost on it. We got, get Ehlers to set up Toffoli on one line. Lowry and Niederreiter get in on it. Plus 1325. So that's up at the Winnipeg Sports Talk parlay. And again, if you haven't played a Coolbet before, use the promo code WST for a 100% bonus up to $200 on your first deposit over at Coolbet. There will be live betting on the Players' Championship after the round. The things will be updated, and then throughout the weekend, we should have live options for you as well. Be interesting to see what that Scheffler number is, if he's still 6 back, depending on who else is in between he and Wyndham Clark after today's race. But again, big thanks to our friends at Coolbet. Well, I was getting some Coolbet merch being sent over from my boy Jake Bolin Moss, so we'll have some Coolbet giveaways to do on the show as well in the upcoming weeks. But we move on. And before we get this podcast up for people to listen to before the game, it is Friday, and you know what that means. It is marbles time. Remo, if you want, let's fire up one of the Tristan Rivers music beauties and get us ready to finish off the week in WST style.
Yeah, I'm going to have to pick one of Tristan's greatest hits that we have here, and we'll get the marbles going. I do got to say, I've been enjoying making references to calling the dinosaur. A lot of people talking about what their plans are for tonight in the game and the weekend. So just be careful out there, Huss. You could be calling the dinosaur tomorrow morning if you don't take precautions.
Well, for sure. I've actually had more dinosaur issues recently due to this flu that I've had. And I will certainly try and listen. I mean, I said last Friday, because I was so bloody sick at the end of that program. I think that 6-hour show might have been what set me back for the week. But I've been waiting for a little brown jug for a few days, and I'm going to try and make it to the game tonight and enjoy a generic on a Friday, and then get some nice rest over Saturday and Sunday, and hopefully be in a much better health situation once we get to Monday. But hey, before we do marbles, we got to play the theme song. So why don't you fire up your dealer's choice today, whatever you're looking for, and then it's marbles time on WST.
It's Friday, another week of work's gone by. You deserve to treat yourself, maybe an ice cream cake or a bottle of ride. Phone the whole day in so that you can't deny. Why use effort even for pleasure? Your blind luck could try. It's time to do a marble race. No skill separating best two words. Marble race. Just like marbles with the punctuation first. Marble race. Don't scramble, you will suffer all this way. Marble race. Your marble points too late.
Tristan Rivers music, the best in the biz. And while Remis gets this ready, I gotta give a shout out to a few of the lock shoppers in here. Rod Z, the master of the stats and trends. If for no other reason other than to hang out with myself and Dusty for 45 minutes or so every day at noon before we get into Winnipeg Sports Talk over at EST, Rod Z has the best stats every day for the games we're talking about. And I see Spency 5 Centsy, another regular in the lock shop, the fellas have put together some bangers this week, and I've been riding with them as well. We had a plus 850 player prop hit on Tuesday, and then last night with the Austin Matthews goal, the Pasta shot prop, and the Rat Hartman point, we ended up getting another one at plus 390, and it did allow me the opportunity to tweet that out and refer to Ryan Hartman as Rat Hartman, as he is referred to here on Winnipeg Sports Talk.
I saw that tweet last night, Huss. Where is it? Oh, man. And I was like, you bet. First, I'm like, you bet on Ryan Hartman? But then I think you tweeted out Rat Hartman like a positive way. So I think you played it well. And yeah, here's a tweet of last night's nasty chat parlay with Rat Hartman getting over 0.5.
Again, these weren't my picks. Like the guys, and we've got a Discord over there as well. So they'll get in, and Jake will take, Rod will fire one up. Spency will fire one up. Mark Amp, who's a big WSTer, will fire one in. And the guys have been running hot. So I'm just more than willing. We usually don't have enough time to go through all the individual games and player props. So the guys have been putting them together, and we've been hitting. So anyways, next Monday, we're back at it. Usually Tuesday and Thursdays with the big slates of games is when we do a little nasty chat parlay. So the guys have been doing a heck of a great job putting all those together.
Here's a message from Brant Batters. He says, do you remember the movie Varsity Blues? I don't know if you remember, with James Vanderbeek in the trailer going, I don't
Dawson's
want
Creek guy.
your laugh. Wasn't that the big line from the trailer? Everyone knew it. He says, Mox said Billy Bob was going to call some dinosaurs in the house party scene. That movie's, I think, from 99, around there. I never saw it. I never saw that one. I did see, the only references I know from that movie are from the trailer and from Not Another Teen Movie, which I've seen many, many times. So, Brant Batters dropping some info on calling him. And then I saw Spency dropping a dinosaur emote us. We might have to get one in there.
Oh, yes. Well, that's actually a good one. Well, of course, leave it to Spency to fire that one up. Yeah, and by the way, shout out to Brad. Brad was one of the many Jet fans that made the trip out to the West Coast. Saw him looking like he had quite a good time in Seattle on that game on Friday night. I'm not sure whether he was in Vancouver, but I can rest assured that all of the Jet fans had a better time on Friday at the game than they did on Saturday in Vancouver. By the way, Remo, we should definitely put Marble in for Scheifele today. It's his birthday.
Yes, I think it's Rasmus Kupari's birthday too. Don't want him to be left out, not in the lineup tonight. But we'll put in Mark Scheifele. A lot of the biggest comment today on the chat, Huss. Has anyone made an account that's Gabriel Vilardi's spleen? I think people have wrote that like four or five times. Also been referred to today as Winnipeg Spleen Talk, WST.
WST.
That's been mentioned a couple times as well. So we're having some, it's terrible news for Gabe, and you hope he's okay, but it has provided a lot of conversation for us today and a lot of education about spleens.
We did learn a lot about spleens.
We learned a lot.
Enlarged spleens, for sure.
A lot I didn't know. And I think we do need to take a second to pat ourselves on the back here. We did have the milestone trade deadline stream last week, and I took the time to announce today we hit, because of that stream, we were able to hit 3 million views on YouTube, lifetime. We've also done 3 million podcast downloads. So I think once in a while, we celebrate the anniversary, but let's keep the party going. Give ourselves a Barry Horowitz.
Barry Horowitz today.
There you go.
And, of course, thanks to all of you, viewers, listeners, and all of our great sponsors that make the show possible each and every day. We couldn't do it without any of you. And it's amazing to think of how we've grown, because I know in the first year, we barely, right around our first anniversary, we got to 1 million combined YouTube views and streams. And then I don't know what point we got to 2 and 2, but we're now at over 6 million total and 3 on each platform. So obviously love the growth, love the support, and hopefully we can keep doing it for a long time moving forward. And hey, we are going into a very, very exciting time, finishing up the regular season and what will hopefully be, fingers crossed, a nice long playoff run for the Winnipeg Jets. All right, we good to go. We're gonna get a track up here.
Yeah. Oh, I got a sick track today. Has a really good one. It's called Cool Polar Summer. I guess it's kind of getting close. Feels like, I'll say this: when I go outside, feels like playoff weather. When I am outside, so we're kind of winding down the season here.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's actually going to get a little chillier. I was just looking at the forecast. I think we're going to be back in the minuses for highs. And usually this is the time of year you just want to get forward to the to real spring weather, but we're going to go back and forth. Monday is going to be 4, but then it looks like next week like -8, -5, -7. I think the normals, yeah, that's a bit below normal. The normal right now is -1. We can't complain. I mean, winter barely happened here this year compared to what we normally get. But just knowing that April's just around the corner, golf courses are going to be open. It would be nice to get a little bit of moisture and get some warm weather and get this show on the road. But the show we need to get on the road right now is a marble race on WST.
Yeah, we got 289 entries, and they updated this whole thing. So I honestly forget every week how to do this. But Cool Polar Summer is the track, and let me fire it here.
And again, of course, the winner of today's marble race will get a exclusive WST hoodie. You can only get it by winning. Shout out to our friends at Shipman Associates, the great people that have helped us out with the hoodies over the course of the past year. We're getting low on a couple of sizes. But anyways, the winner, just send us an email with your size and we'll hook you up afterwards. All right, so Cool Polar Summer. This is another first-time track. Oh, what are these, bumper cars?
They just updated the whole game. Like, everything is very new on it.
I like it. We're starting on the mini golf track today. So about 290 or so in. Good luck to everybody. New track, Cool Polar Summer. Michael Remis, fire away, drop the marbles, and let's see who is winning on a Friday afternoon before a Jets Ducks tilt tonight at Canada Life Center. Here we go. Big drop. This looks like one of those super slides that you get at the water park. Oh, wow. This is going to go right off a ramp off the top. Here we go. 289 marbles. No one's really separated themselves from anybody else. And now we're going to get down to this one where things are going to get a little more difficult. All right, a few marbles. Who is that? Daryl M for the win. Donnie Boy's right in the mix. Theo Seegers. Scheif. Mark Scheifele right in the mix of things. Theo Seegers first. Donnie Boy, Peg City Dude, Jay Miller, and Mike Wynn. Mike, am I going to see you in 316 tonight? We're up in row 1. We'll be there. WSTers, pop by the bar in 316 by the intermission. If you want to come and say hi, we'll be hanging out there as usual. When I'm in the upper bowl, Jay Miller and Mike Wynn, the glue guy of section 316. Look at this. Mark Scheifele's in second. Wouldn't this be something else if Scheifele could win? Former winners from the Jets that have won the marble race, Nino Niederreiter and coach Rick Bowness. But it looks like Jay Miller has got a bit of a lead right now. Manny Fran now in second. Amy Weeb. Looks like Turd Ferguson's into the mix. Oh, and everything. We're going to have quite the finish. Because things are slowing down and everyone's going to come out at the same time. Oh, actually, we had a couple guys that I think got pushed over. No, there's Jay Miller and Manny Fran. They're first up. Oh, Pretty and Pionk just got thrown over the top rope. Former winner, Pretty and Pionk. Jay Miller, though, first place right now, looking like a pretty comfortable lead. I'm not sure. We haven't seen this track before. If there's any more chaos that can befell our leaders right now. Oh, Big Joey Panks is making a run right now. He's now in second. Panks to the right. Miller to the left. Who will get out first and then get into... Oh, here's the bin. So Now, whoever can get out first is going to make it happen. Looks like Jay Miller is first. He's had a great run. Will he be first in? Yes, he will be. Almost lost it at the end. Jay Miller, our winner today. Joey Panks, second place. Tell you what, Panks, that was very close. I know you've been close a few times. Panks, as second place winner, if you want a pair of tickets to AEW, let me know and we will, I'll hook you up. Send an email, winnipegsportstalk@gmail.com. That'll be a nice secondary prize today for a very close call. But Jay Miller, I think Jay's been in a lot. I think that's Jay's first ever win. Jay, you send us an email, winnipegsportstalk@gmail.com. Let us know your size, and I'll hit you up next week, and you can make a time to pop by and pick one up. You see Schickster's finishing it up, and there it is. Jay Miller, our winner today. Great, very interesting track, Remo. It was good, not a ton of eliminations. And
yeah, not a lot of eliminations, but I thought a lot of different obstacles, so I was cool with this one.
Yeah, no, I enjoyed it. All right, here's a quick rundown. You can see where you finished. Jay, Joey, Johnny Bender second, Russ Lowen in fourth, Val L fifth. Oh, Big Tyson Ducharme, sixth place today. Turd, Leanne, Fancy, Cruiser 24, our top 10. Spency 5 Sensi, nice work. Lock Shop staying hot, 13th place. Nicely done. Hackman 18, Greg Hasbeek, nicely done, Greg. Well, I'm sure I'll see you on the weekend at some point. VR Montenegro, another EST and Lock Shop regular. Tico Napoli, Mike Wynn. There's Scott Westman. It was great to meet Scott at our whiskey event a couple weeks ago with Canadian Club. That was awesome. Chris Vermette. Chris has had some good performances lately. D. Chalice. Sat beside D. Chalice at the game on Wednesday. Not a great game. Good company, though. I see Steiner in the mix. Mikey McBikeface. There's Yin Vivian, WST favorite. Rebecca Riley. Hi, Rebecca. iHeart Gaming. Newsline everywhere. Royal Sports Payables. Leslie Mitchnuck. There's Mary Jane. Mary Jane was our first winner of AEW tickets. I'll be sending those out soon, Mary Jane. I hope your son's fired up to go. Amanda, wow. We won 2 weeks ago. Now back to 120. Real life hits you hard, eh, Amanda? Believe me, she's still stunting around the bar, proud of being the victor of the only takes one time to win, and then no one can take that away from you. Tristan Rivers music there. All caps Kyle.
Man, we have a lot of people in here. I don't remember having to scroll down this far.
I know, and everyone's had. Oh, there's Rod Z. Rod, keep it going with the winners on the weekend. Feel free to hit me with any hot picks on Twitter at any time. I always appreciate them. The GFL 220. At least you stayed in there. Corey May, Rob Mahoney, Alana Sutton. Getting down towards the end. Doug Phil, Dan Milburn, Evan Hunter, and of course, Bridget. Bridget and Les, two regulars from the WST section at the games. And then here's everyone that got thrown over the top rope.
Ross got DNF, so I don't know where Bozeman is.
I didn't see Bozeman. We probably missed him.
He's 130th. Yeah,
130th. All right, Bozeman wins their head-to-head wager. Great show today. Great week. I am feeling better. Appreciate the patience. There has been a little bit of extra usage of the cough button, and Remis has been doing a great job trying to get it off me as I've lost it a couple times this week. However, we are at the finish line of this show and of the work week. Thank you, all of you, for making us a big part of your day. And have a great weekend. Enjoy this game tonight. K&R, IC afterwards. You know where to find the fellas. And then we'll be back breaking down tonight's game against the Ducks Sunday, kicking off the road trip in Columbus. And on Monday, big weekend recap and a look ahead to the Rangers, Devils, Islanders, Capitals, all next week after the Jets started off in Seabus. Huge thanks to the sponsors that make the show happen each and every day. All of you for being with us. Podcast listeners, thank you so much for the support. And, of course, Remis for doing a bang-up job all week long. Hacksaw, Rewucki, Billeck, and, of course, Clayton with Sport Manitoba and the Manitoba Summer Games jumping on as well today. 7 o'clock puck drop. Might see you there, gang. If not, we'll see you Monday, 1 p.m. right here, WST.
Oh, my God! Oh! Shut it down! Let's go home!
Thanks for tuning in to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast feed at winnipegsportstalk.com.